Way to go, of course. We'll just take a look at what lies ahead of all of them, the 4,000 who are going to set off through this city of Dublin. And as they set forth, they head off from Lower Leeson Street with the start of the marathon proper at 10 o'clock. And there's where they head off, straight through RD Street into Rialto and moving through Drimna. Those figures there you see are the mile markers. 7 miles they'll reach Temple Ogue. 9 miles they've got to Terranure Road West. 10 miles it's Kimmage Road through Harold's Cross, and the halfway point comes in Bath Avenue after they've headed down across the beside the Leeson Street Bridge. Onto the north side, no tolls to pay today, of course, but through they go. The 14-mile point is at Brayman Grove, Eastwall Road, Link Road, St. Lawrence Road, Hoath Road, and that's when it starts to hurt, approaching the 20-mile mark at Springdale Road up there in Coolock. Through Donecarney then, back down a little bit of a hill towards us here as they cross over the Liffey again, having come down Fairview Strand, Sean McDermott Street, Lombard Street East, and back up Grafton Street into Stephen's Green. And there's the scene just off Stephen's Green now, in Earlsford Terrace, in fact, with the new Conrad Hotel on the left, National Concert Hall on the right. And that's where they're assembling now, and in among them somewhere is Jerry Kelly.
Well, you know, there's many a famous face down here in the Dublin City Marathon, and one very famous face at the moment is the man on the front of the official programme, and that's Pascal O'Connor, who comes from Ballymun, from Ballyfermot. Pascal, how are you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad.
How many marathons have you run?
Well, you've 7, 8, this will be 8. 6 Dublin City and 1 Cork.
And tell me, when did you find out that you were going to be on the front of the programme?
When I went to the Mansion House to register.
Oh, did you? Well, were you surprised?
Very, very surprised. Yeah.
Good, very surprised. So how about at the time today? How are you going to do?
Well, 2:59 last year, hopefully 2:50 this year.
2:50?
Yeah.
All right, best of luck. Another man running his 10th marathon is John Slevin.
It's my 10th Dublin. I've done 26 altogether.
Have you?
Yes.
So do they get easier?
No. But they're always very enjoyable.
How do you feel about today?
A bit apprehensive about the breeze, but I'm glad the rain hasn't materialised. I think it'll be pleasant enough.
Yes, well, we're certainly hoping it stays well for you too. All right, I've got 2 men over here who've travelled over from the States to join in. Hello, sir. What's your name?
Jerry Pugh.
And
Joe Thornburg.
now, Joe, I know that you're from Michigan and you're from Los Angeles.
Right.
It's a little bit colder than Los Angeles.
Well, the colder it is, the better the race.
And how do you feel about running in the Dublin City Marathon? Is this your first time running here?
First time ever. It's something I've always wanted to do.
This is your first ever marathon?
No, this is number 7 for me.
Oh, number 7.
Yes.
All right, well, listen, the best of luck, and I hope you enjoy the route. Dublin is looking at its best today.
It's a beautiful city. We've had a great time and looking forward to a good race.
Okay, thank you very much for talking to us. Now, 3 people who are running in the CDL team competition are...
Sheila Clifford from Leixlip.
James Kinney, Clonaclare.
Rita Wilson, County Kenny.
And tell me, how did you get involved in a team?
There was a competition in the Irish Runner, and we all had to enter for a target time. My time is 4 hours today, and they have different times. And we're going to be coached from now to next year to 1991 by Noel Henry, and he's going to improve our times for next year, right? I'd like to say hello to all the Leixlip loafers who are running here as well today. The rest of my friends are running here.
I remember the Leixlip loafers. They ran here a couple of years ago.
That's right, you interviewed us here about 2 years ago.
Oh, I see.
We're famous.
So they're not here now, no?
No, they're at the start waiting for me to go back to the start.
Oh, they are. All right. Tell me, do you want to say hello to anybody?
Everybody down in Courtlair and in Whitegate, Moychannon.
All right, and yourself?
Just about a father and family.
Good stuff. All right, well, listen, the best of luck. Hope you enjoy the run, and maybe we'll talk to you later on. Okay, and that's from us for the moment. Back up to you, George.
Yes, among the serious contenders here in Dublin this morning, Neil Cusack, former winner, of course, of the Dublin City Marathon. Neil, what's the current form like? I know you won the half marathon in Cork not too long ago.
Yeah, I've been training very hard. I was very pleased with the win in Cork, and I ran in Paris in between at the start of this month, and I ran respectable as well. So I hope to run one of my better marathons for the last few years, hopefully.
You're looking in remarkable shape. Tell me about your very hard work routine. You train very early in the morning, I believe.
I run at about 7 o'clock in the morning, Monday to Friday, and I run again at 6:30 in the evening. 7 days a week, but I log quite a good few miles up. You have to be dedicated, I suppose, to run well.
What about the competition today, Neil?
Well, I think it's a very open race because you have the 2 times twins who are very good. You have Roy Dooney, you have a lot of good English runners who have run good half marathons, and they're trying this as their first marathon. You have Johnny Bulger. You have about 10 guys in there, any of them who could win, you know. So it's quite an open race, and the conditions are dried. It's a bit cool, but I'd say it could be a bit windy out on the course, so I'd say you'll have a group up there for quite a while.
We're looking forward to following your progress, Neil. The very best of luck to you. Good luck in the race. Let's go back to George.
Well, that's the scene looking down Stephen's Green, and 4,000 runners, we said. The city of Dublin looking at its best. I don't know what the organisers of this marathon must do, but certainly they seem to have a direct line to the weatherman upstairs, because we're seldom afflicted by a bad day. This is a marvellous day, a good day for marathon running. There aren't too many breezes around the course, we've been told, but, well, Catherine Davis might have thoughts about that.
Well, I don't know. I think somebody said once, somebody up there loves me, but somebody certainly loves people who organise the Dublin City Marathon, because I've never actually can remember a day on which it has been cold. Okay, it's a bit chillier today than normal. We've seen them a few times where they've actually been complaining of the heat, but I think this is just going to be another fantastic day for Dublin.
So that's Catherine, who'll be in the commentary box here, also alongside Frank Greeley as well. Frank?
Yes, George, it's shaping up to be quite a race today, and thankfully the weather is absolutely brilliant. In my estimation, it's probably one of the very best days we've had in the 11 years of running the Dublin Marathon, and certainly in the men's race there's a great field shaping up front.
Frank Greeley, Catherine Davis, myself, up here, down there, Michael Lester.
Well, two names synonymous with the Dublin Marathon down through the years of Billy Kennedy and Alex Sweeney, two of the main organisers of the event. Billy, a little bit different this year to last year's course. Now, tell us about the changes.
Well, the changes this year is only a little bit different, and the change that would be, the first change that meet will be in Earlsport, or at the Springdale Road in Raheny, where they'll go straight up Springdale Road instead of going around Edenmore Estate. And the second change will be here behind me, the finish itself, which is away from Earlsport Terrace and in Stephen's Green South. So there's not too much of a change in general that the runner will notice in particular.
Well, Alex, this, as we said earlier, is the 11th running of this marathon now. It's a very well-established event at this point in time. Are you happy with the entry again this year?
We are, yes. It's on the way up now, and with the CDL involvement now, we're delighted to see that rise, and we can only hope for the future to improve from here onwards. We're delighted again, of course, with the weather, which we were expecting the worst there with gales blowing, but it's beautiful here now, and we'll have a great day of sport.
Well, RT always organises the weather for this event, Alex, as you know. Now, one last question for you. Who do you think is going to win? Have you any thoughts about that?
Well, obviously the Climb twins must be 2 years ago, first and second here. They seem to run it as they please. But Roy Dooney's in there now with them, and it'll be interesting to see how he copes with them. So it should be a very interesting race up front. Christine Kennedy, I'm told, is in great form, and it'll be interesting to watch her in the ladies.
OK, Alex, Billy, thank you very much for the moment. Right now, let's go back to Jerry Kelly.
Well, I tell you, down here again, we've got two ladies from
Dublin.
One from Dublin and from Drogheda. Drogheda, what's your name?
Therese Kieran from Margot Miley.
Now tell me, how many marathons have you run?
This is my second marathon. So I hope to finish it, yeah, second marathon.
Is this your second time in Dublin?
Yes, second Dublin Marathon, yes.
And why do you say you hope to finish it? Are you not sure?
Well, I finished it somewhere anyway. If I cook, I'll finish it.
Did you finish the last one?
I did, I finished it, yes.
Ah, there you go, no problem.
No problem, keep the pace.
How about yourself?
This is my first marathon.
Oh, your first one?
I'm going to do 10Ks. This is my first marathon.
Are you nervous?
Sorry, yeah, I'm excited though.
Are you worried?
Excited. No, I feel great. Things just seems to be happening right
So
today.
are you going to run together?
No, we're joining in different times, we hope.
All right, wishing you best of luck. And two gentlemen from Holland.
Hello.
What is your name, sir?
Paul.
Paul? Paul what?
That's Paul. P-A-U-L.
P-A-U-L.
Peter.
Peter, what brought you over to run in the Dublin City Marathon?
Well, Dublin seems like one of the best places to run a marathon to me, because it's such a nice city.
Are you experienced marathon runners?
No, will be the first marathon.
First marathon ever?
So I'm going to set a personal best today. Whatever
All right. And you, it's your first one?
It's the same thing as well. My personal best is going to be set today.
Good stuff. Wishing you best of luck. Back to you, Ger.
Well, the wheelchair race, of course, is one of the events that we now regard as being practically synonymous with Jerry O'Rourke, and Jerry's here with me. You won it 6 times.
Very lucky indeed, Gabriel. Yeah, I'm very pleased to have a good record in it, but today is a different day, and hopefully I'll do as well today as I did before in all the other years.
What about the course today? How tough is it for you?
The course isn't too bad. There's a few hills in it which are difficult at times. That's going to be there anyway, but as long as the rain stays away and it doesn't get too windy on the coast, coast road. The course is quite good for wheelchairs and runners.
Hills, I imagine, must be a right headache for you.
They're very tough, especially at the end of the race. They're very tough, but you come down the other side, which gives you a bit of a break again, but it does take a lot of energy to get up them. Yeah, that's right.
What kind of mileage would you be doing in the weeks leading up to the marathon, Jerry?
It was difficult this year because I went to Holland for the World Championships and was very successful there, and came back and then decided to do the marathon. But I've been averaging about 70 to 80 miles the last couple of weeks, last 4 weeks, which I was very pleased with, and the training was going well, so I'm looking forward to a good day, hopefully.
Tell us a little bit about the chair you're in today.
It's a new chair I got last year with Holland in mind for the championships, and it's a three-wheeler. It's much faster, and it allows the training to be a lot better, and it doesn't seem to take as much out of you like the other chairs they used to. It's like everything, they're renewing them every year, and it seems to be going a lot better at the moment.
Jerry O'Rourke, the best of luck to you. Let's go back to George Hamilton.
Jerry, of course, will be in the vanguard of those who set off before the main bunch of athletes in this Dublin Marathon. The 11th running of same, sponsored by CDL Colite again this year. And after the wheelchair athletes and the cerebral palsy athletes, then that massed rank that you can see behind them under that arch of red and yellow balloons. Michael Lester's down there.
With me now is Eugene Gibney, the managing director of CDL, for whom obviously today is a very important day. Eugene, you must be pleased again with the turnout.
We're very pleased, Michael. An increase last year, CDL Colite came in to save the marathon. The numbers are up from 3,000 to over 4,000 this year, and in particular we're very pleased about the charity aspect of the marathon. Over £1 million since the marathon's been run, and we'd like all the people to come out along the route, away from their Colite fires, out to give encouragement to the people on the route. It's a tremendous day, and we're very excited about it.
Okay, Eugene, good luck to you and your involvement in it. Now, as you know, this week there's been an awful lot of pressure on one particular Fianna Fáil TD, to say the very least, but there's going to be a little bit of pressure on another one today. Tom Kitt, what kind of form are you in? You obviously want to deflect some of the bad publicity of the party for the week.
Well, I say, Michael, there's no better way to expend some energy and to get rid of some tension than to run a marathon. So I'm looking forward, in fact, to getting out there, get a break from it all for 4 hours-ish, maybe under 4 hours.
You haven't brought Brian Lenihan with you, have you?
No, and I hope Brian is watching, and I send him my regards. I've done Berlin since I saw you last, Michael. In fact, we must stop meeting like this. I met you last year. And I must say, Berlin was a very historical occasion, a lovely way to prepare for this. This is a great event. As Eugene said, it's one where there are many charities involved. I'm running for goal. I think it's a very worthwhile charity, but I'm looking forward to getting out there and enjoying it.
All right, Tom, we wish you luck, and don't forget to phone in the results as well at the end of it. And the last man we're going to have a word with here is Jack O'Connor. Now, Jack is running in his 11th Dublin Marathon today. You're running them all, Jack.
Yes, and I feel fantastic today, and it's a beautiful, absolutely beautiful day. And I want to say hello to everyone in Castle. My precious two dots, all and Tara. I hope you're getting on fine.
Well, Jack, I hope that they're all shouting for you down there. I have no doubt that they absolutely were. And a quick word from this man. And you're his friend.
Michael Broston, all the way from Killarney. This is my 11th marathon.
All the Kerry crowd have got their mention at this stage. They're almost ready to go to the start now. Let's go back again to George Hamilton.
Yes, they come from all arts and parts to take part in this Dublin Marathon. Dublin City, as I was saying earlier, looking at picture, and if you're sitting at home watching this and you're near the marathon route, why not get yourself out of the front door onto the footpath and give them a good old cheer as they go past. This is how we'll be bringing it to you. We've 3 eyes in the sky, as it were, today. This is one of them. Michael Fitzgerald is our cameraman up there on one of the choppers, and the other 2 act as satellites, as it were, to beam back the pictures from our 2 motorized camera positions. Dan O'Connell is on the flatbed truck, which will be at the front of the proceedings, and Paul Daniel will be providing us with some magical pictures from the back of a motorbike. But to get those pictures back, they beam them up to the helicopter in the sky, and then back down to RTE, and so on out to you. So, as I say, it will be a pretty picture of Dublin, and if you are near the course, why not get yourself out and give them a bit of encouragement, and then nip back inside and follow it on television. We'll be with them all the way. First to go, these fellas in the wheelchairs, and as we know, they can complete marathon courses in extra special time, and they'll be first over the line before they get back. The main elite athletes get back to St. Stephen's Green. Starting in Lower Leeson Street, where the scene is one of expectation and intense activity at the moment.
There's been much talk about the breaking the 2-hour marathon, 2 hours for the marathon, but actually the people who have actually done it are the wheelchair athletes, and some of them, I think Chris Hallam is well below the 2 hours. whereas those able-bodied people are 2 hours and 6 minutes 51, I think.
This is Dublin on Bank Holiday Monday morning from just over RTE in Donnybrook. Our helicopter with our cameraman Michael Fitzgerald on board has just taken off from Montrose and is heading down towards Leeson Street, where the Mayor of Dublin, Michael Donnelly, is chatting to the wheelchair athletes before they get underway. Michael, who's a great supporter of all these type of events, and I think why shouldn't he be? Because Dublin is, as we keep saying, looking great, and it's a great event to show off the city at its best.
Certainly, talking there about the 2-hour marathon, it's unlikely we'll see it broken in the men's race today. The record stands at 2:13:45, which Jerry Kiernan set in 1982. However, don't be surprised if some of these wheelchair guys get in well under 2 hours. Jerry Kiernan, of course, is an omission from today's race. He had trained specially for the event, had hoped to regain his title here in Dublin today, but an Achilles tendon injury has put him out of the race. However, there's about 8 to 10 very, very serious contenders for the men's race, and we'll be catching up with them in just a little while.
What about the ladies, Catherine?
I think Christine Kennedy has to be the girl in form, but I'm a bit worried about the fact that Christine, this will be her 3rd marathon this year. She ran just a short 8 weeks ago in the European Championships, when she finished very creditable 12th. But I think that maybe perhaps this might be just one marathon too many. And Ursula Noctor, well, it depended on the weather whether Ursula would actually toe the line today. I know Ursula ran a tremendous race, and after falling at the first kilometre in the recent Women's World 15K around the streets of Dublin, and she finished 27th. So it'll be interesting to see whether she has fully recovered and whether she'll be put off today, whether the weather will put her off. But it's a good day. I mean, as we were saying earlier on, George, there's not much wind. It's a bit cool, but I think it's ideal for running. So I think it's going to be between Ursula. There's another girl I forgot, Patricia Griffin. She's going today as well, but I wonder will she go the full way. If you look back at the wheelchair athletes, they're just about to go off now in a minute.
In fact, Ursula Noctor, Catherine, she had keeping her options very open today. She has a ticket for Columbus, Ohio for the 11th of November for a marathon there. But I'd say this morning with the wind very, very slight this morning, I would say she's going to opt to go in Dublin.
Well, that helicopter has made it down from Montrose in a matter of seconds, really, and is hovering high over Leeson Street now, where underneath that archway the wheelchair athletes are about to set forth. That archway of balloons, 26 miles, 385 yards ahead of them, and they'll be back in 2 hours or so. Looking, of course, for Jerry O'Rourke. Now, 27 years of age, Jerry. And as you've been hearing, a 6-time winner of this event.
Standing by for the official start of the 1990 CDL Dublin Marathon, the wheelchair section.
And the wheelchair's set to go. 10 minutes to 11, they're due to set forth. Might be just a fraction after that, but the stopwatches will be on them to get the precise time when they come storming back into Stephen's Green. Jerry O'Rourke, we mentioned, predicting a time of 2 hours and 8 minutes. Come goes, and up they go. And a great cheer from a sizable crowd that's lining the sides of Leeson Street at St. Stephen's Green. And away they go on their marathon. And a great round of applause for the wheelchair athletes. We set off on the south side of Stephen's Green, and away they go. And that gives you an indication of the speed they get up to. Jerry O'Rourke immediately setting the pace along Stephen's Green and then out towards the cook.
Of course, the training that goes into the wheelchair athletes' preparation for the marathon, it's equally as intense as that of the person who might be running the marathon and who might be very much up there in the elite class.
I would have to agree with you there, Frank. Actually, I was coming into town one day on a bike around 9 o'clock, and who was coming in the midst of all the traffic? Kevin Breen, but I don't see Kevin is not in the race today. He told me he was specifically training for the Dublin Marathon, but I don't see him down there. The cap. But he was really taking his life in his hands, coming in all the midst of all the traffic early in the morning, and he was there coming in, and then he would have to go back up the Swords Road, up the hill at lunch hour. Jerry O'Rourke just sitting in the slipstream there. It must be a bit of a wind. Jerry's as cute as they come when it comes to marathon racing, taking advantage of any shelter that he can get.
Of course, Jerry is a supreme competitor. He's so competitive that even if it comes down to the last mile, you can see Jerry building up to come in at really top speed into the finish.
And even in the wheelchair section, there are those who take part for the fun of it too. There's a major battle going on at the head of affairs, and there are others who may well take the best part of 4 hours to get around.
I think we mustn't forget Patrice Dockery from Beaumont. She's probably going to be the first girl across the finish line for the women's, the wheelchair, or Heather O'Hare. This will be a right battle between them.
Back at the start line, John Creedon from Dublin, and behind them those who will set forth on foot. But this is the cerebral palsy section of the marathon. John Creedon in the middle, and John could be round here in about 2.5 hours. John, a Dubliner himself, comes from Foxrock, does a lot of his training out on the roads around Leopardstown.
So there they go, they're away. That's John Creedon, home clear.
And up he goes.
Keeping pressure. The prize from the 500 pounds.
John Creedon, Owen Clear, Arthur Farley, and you really have to admire their determination to compete despite their disability. And they have their own battle to win today.
In fact, the Cerebral Palsy Association in Ireland is one of the big charities to benefit from the efforts of some of the marathon runners here. And only earlier this year, 80 Irish marathon runners ran in Boston, all raising money for cerebral palsy.
You think that to do their training, they have to get out on the roads, in among the fumes of the traffic whizzing past them, and they've got their own training to do, and they've got to do it on the road. They can't do it on the footpath. But meanwhile, here's Jerry O'Rourke heading towards the Coombe, Dublin man, into the heart of the Liberties, and already in front. 6 wins behind him so far. They leave Stephen's Green, the 3 competitors in this section of the event, and the applause is for them at this stage. But back at the start, there you are, 4,000 people preparing to set forth on the Dublin Marathon. There's been a lot said about the fact that the marathon fever has died, but I think in anybody's language, 4,000 people prepared to put themselves to the ultimate athletic test must say something for the attraction of such an event.
Certainly there's an attraction, but I think what they're doing now, it's not that it's actually died. I think they're going further afield. I mean, there was a crowd in Berlin a month ago, and there's also a crowd who'll go to London. I mean, they say that I've run Dublin a few times. Sure, I'll have a go. I can have a weekend in London, or I can have a weekend in New York or Berlin and see what's going on. But then I think eventually they will come back to Dublin.
Yes, I think that's the trend, all right, but we mustn't forget either that both London and Berlin, they're actually growing in size each year. In fact, to get into the London Marathon now, you'll be very lucky because it's on a lottery basis, first come, first served. And there'll be about 70,000 people looking for about 30,000 places next April in London. The same applies to Berlin, and it's a worldwide phenomenon that actually the big city marathons are actually on the increase numbers-wise.
Here are the competitors in the Dublin Marathon this year. I see lots of sponsorship involved as well. Athletes who are taking part to raise money for those less fortunate than themselves.
In fact, George, there's one man here in Dublin today, Pat O'Connell from Kerry, and he hopes to have £250,000 raised over his running over the last several years. That's for cancer research and treatment. Pat has run in Boston, New York, and all over the world, and he will have, by the time he crosses the line in Dublin, over 10 years he will have raised £250,000 for the One Cancer Research Programme.
Lower Leeson Street, jam-packed with 4,000 competitors about to take part in the CDL Colite Dublin Marathon for 1990. That's the rear of the field. Of course, they line up in order of ability, really, and the elite athletes with the orange numbers on are at the front. That's where the big joust will take place between those who are going to complete it in a little over 2 hours, and then further back those who are here to take part, to continue a tradition they've set for themselves, and then maybe some more who are only taking part to say, I was there.
I think some of Jack's Army are there as well.
So they're now being called forward to the line, being asked to hold the line, and any moment now they'll be gone. A minute to the start.
Of course, a lot of the elite athletes didn't really reveal their hand until this morning, until they saw what type of weather was in store. And it's encouraging to see the like of Roy Dooney, Neil Cusack, Shea Faulkner, people like that up front in the marathon, and they have decided to give it their best effort on a beautiful sunny day here in Dublin.
This, of course, is the worst moment for the elite athletes. Are the shoes tight, too tight, or what's going to happen? How do I feel? Do I really feel bad?
Of course, one of the favourites today are the Cleamish twins, and they're actually celebrating their 32nd birthday in Dublin today.
And the Dublin Marathon for 1990 is underway. 4,000 runners set off across the south side of St. Stephen's Green, and the cheers of the crowd ring in their ears. Off go the balloons. Wherever you are in Dublin today, you should be aware that there's a marathon on. The race is on.
Move up to the finish area when the runners have passed through, and we'll keep you posted on
Got any faces you know in there? And they come from all arts and parts to take part in this. And high above the junction of Earlsford Terrace and Leeson Street and St. Stephen's Green, they stream through on that journey, the traditional marathon distance, 26 miles, 385 yards, through the south of the city of Dublin, across the toll bridge into the north side, sweeping back to end here for the best of them in about 2¼ hours.
It's good to see some of the back markers just taking it very easy at the start, because it's all about even paced running. If you want to do 4 hours, if you want to do 3 hours, you still got to pace yourself properly. And it's good to see them taking it nice and gently at the start. No point in going for the bit of glory the first mile, because there's 25 miles and a bit after that.
all types of faces from all types of places, and I'm sure there may well be one or two that you will have seen and recognised yourself. And if anybody knows who he is, maybe they'd give us a call, because he's not obliging us and not wearing a number, as you see. And if he's going to stay there for long enough, it would be nice to give him a name.
Of course, a feature of today's race as well is that there's £1,000 on offer for the best team, who score best with 3 runners, 4 to run and 3 to score. And I see there are 34 teams from all over Ireland, and indeed a couple from England as well here today. Probably one of the leading teams is that of Limerick Athletic Club, and we've also some very strong teams from Thurles, Clonmel and Galway City.
Well, of course, the marathon organisation is worth making the point. It's a huge undertaking. All the runners had to come and sign on in the Mansion House yesterday afternoon, collect their numbers and so forth. And the whole thing is then computerised, and the organisers provide us with a list of entrants, which is perfect, because it's rather difficult to know 4,000 runners. But as I say, if the man doesn't wear a number, what do we do?
Actually, he's a man who's often taken the lead in races and hasn't actually finished, but there, number 4181 with the goal is Bobby Mitchell from Bray, and the man in the cap, Johnny Bulger. Now, Johnny could be a dark horse, actually. He's back running. He was in Canada for a few years, and he's now back running in Ireland. He's running for Limerick AC, so himself and Neil Cusack should have quite a battle for who's going to be the first Limerick man home.
They're heading off through the Liberties, actually, now.
One thing we can guarantee, George, anyway, that leading runner will certainly not win the marathon today.
But he's made a name for himself anyway, even if he's only the man with no name. Well, there you are. It's all about having a good time. And they're in no particular rush. .1376 there, Dominic Moore. Dominic works in forestry. He's up from Tip to take part in this, which would explain the blue singlet with the yellow band.
Understand that the leader actually is a chap called Peter Dooley, who runs for DCH. I knew I couldn't put a name on him, and he's running the first mile or so for a bit of charity, so he's got his day of glory as they head up the bottom of Cork Street.
So Ger Canning is out there, not running the race, I hasten to add, but taking it easy in front. How are you, Ger?
Well, I'm enjoying myself, George, I must say. We've gone through the Liberties, as you say, and that was Peter Dooney, by the way, for DCH. And he tells me that he is running for charity for the first mile or so, having a good time and hoping to enjoy himself, but he's not expecting to be involved when the issue gets particularly serious in the next couple of miles.
Ger Canning is on that flatbed truck. You can see, well, he's in it, in the cab, but on the truck is Dan O'Connell with the camera, and that's the picture Dan is providing us with right now. Dominic Moore from Tipperary is 1376.
Bobby Mitchell, and in the red shorts there is Stan Woods. Stan ran very well in the earlier marathons, and he hadn't been around for a while, but it's good to see him coming back to form. He ran in the Clonmel 20 there a month ago, yeah, and then right in the middle of the picture there is Seamus O'Donnell from Galway. Now, Seamus likes the long distance, and he'll be coming into his own, even if he gets dropped off the early pace. Seamus will come into his own when the going gets tough, around the 22, 23 miles. In a half marathon recently, he told me that he actually ran out of ground.
In fact, a lot of the main contenders felt that the pack could well stay together for quite a while today, and that well could be the way. There could be 8 or 10 people certainly in the early miles. It's unlikely that we're going to see anybody make a serious break, but I can see Roy Dooney, the national marathon champion, right in the middle of the picture at the moment. And Roy, of course, ran for Ireland in the European Marathon in the European Championships in Split, and he has to be viewed as a very serious contender here today.
The only thing I would say about Roy is that he ran that race and it was in very hot, humid conditions. Now, Roy's a big bloke, and I wonder, did he lose a lot in that race, and will he be fully recovered? Remember, he had a very hard race in the National Marathon. He took it out hard from the beginning, and he actually got away from the field in the first mile in the National Marathon, and then they came back to him. So that was a hard marathon. He then had another hard marathon in the European Championships in Split, where he finished 15th. But I wonder how he actually has recovered. I think he's had a little bit of a toe problem all week, so it'll be interesting to see whether that could affect him.
One of the things Roy has done actually in recent weeks, he led an Irish Telecom Éireann team to a prestigious victory in New York in the Manufacturers Hanover Challenge. And he led the co-ed team from Telecom, a very, very prestigious victory along Park Avenue in New York. That was over, of course, a shorter distance of 3.5 miles.
Dominic Moore then from Tip, and front 4181 is Bobby Mitchell from Wicklow. 4143 Tom Jordan from Wexford.
Can't help thinking, looking at Tom Jordan there, he actually led the marathon for a few years and actually as pacemaker and to the halfway stage, and then he dropped out. And a lot of the top contenders, they don't like the idea of that. Dick Cooper in the actual marathon program was complaining about that. Dick's a man who doesn't like a pacemaker in a race. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Tommy Jordan there for the first half of the race, and then he'll just meet his friend with the tracksuit at the halfway mark, and that'll be his day's work.
Things are a little different at the back of the pack. These are fun runners who are in this marathon to achieve their own personal goal. In the green singlet there, number 1130 is Peter Edwards. He's come over from England to take part in this.
One of the sad points this morning, George, we saw was last year's winner Pauline Nolan was down here at the start, actually on crutches. She has a serious Achilles tendon injury, and she was heartbroken to be missing today's race.
Well, it doesn't take long to string them out, does it? And this is how they have sorted themselves out in the early stages of the race. Of course, running marathons is all about pacing yourself. No point in setting off at a fearsome lick and then finding that you can't keep it up. John Creedon on the tricycle being passed by the runner still. It's Dominic Moore and Bobby Mitchell together. We haven't as yet seen the fearsome twins, have we?
Oh, no. They're in there all right, George. They're in the pack, and they're certainly going to play a major part, I would think, in this race today. In fact, they ran the great race there from Glasgow to London recently and won £11,000 between them.
None of the major contenders will actually show their hand for the moment. For the first few miles, there's anyone who wants to have a bit of glory out there, and then when the real racing gets going, after about 4 or 5 miles, then I think we'll see the main contenders actually show their hand. And it'll be interesting to see how the women's race shapes up as well.
Yes, Christine Kennedy was expressing to be very, very happy with the conditions here this morning, and she certainly has to go in as race favourite. But then you have Patricia Griffin having her first outing over the marathon here. You have the withdrawal from the race by Sheila Catford from England, who would have been the pre-race favourite. But certainly the women's race has a lot of good quality runners. May not have a great number of them, but certainly 3 or 4 very good contenders there who could give us a very good race for the top position.
4181 Bobby Mitchell alongside him there. 4143 Tom Jordan.
And there we have the Cleamishes now coming up to the front. There's the two of them. We have to wait to get their numbers to see which is which. They're both so alike. The last time they ran, the only way we could actually differentiate between who was who was the colour of their shorts. I hope they've got different colour shorts on today.
That used to be a Catherine.
In fact, they were brought over here today by a Kerry man, John Flavin, who is attached to London Irish Club in England. And John is actually a former Kerry minor footballer. He played minor football for Kerry in 1964. But he tells me that the Cleamish twins are going back to Czechoslovakia next Friday, and they hope to declare for Czechoslovakia in the 1992 Olympics in Barcelona.
Just watching Richard Mulligan there in the black singlet to the right of the screen. Richard obviously tracking the Cleamishes. This is Richard's first actual run of a marathon, and I wonder how he'll go. I think he could go very well today. They don't call him Blocks for nothing. He's sitting back there today, and he's going to be cagey. He's got the work done because he regularly, and he has an extra advantage too in that he trains on part of the marathon course out around the north side when the going gets tough around the 16, 17 mile run. Richard knows he'll be on home territory and he can run up and down there. He actually lives in the Hoth Road, and when you come up the top of St. Lawrence's Road, they'll turn right, and if Richard went maybe 150 yards, actually they'll pass Richard's house. and they just turned the top of St. Lawrence's Road. Maybe he'll go in for a cup of tea en route tomorrow from the two boys.
But he certainly showed very good form in Claremorris 2 weeks ago when he had his final blowout for this race. He won 10k down in Claremorris, beating no less a competitor than Paul Donovan, the former world indoor silver medalist over 3,000 metres. And he beat him by quite a margin in Claremorris. The big test will be, we'll see around 18 to 20 miles, what Richard Mulligan's true marathon potential is. And he's very confident that he's going to pull a major surprise here today. Clonliffe, of course, have a strong team here. They have Richard Mulligan, Eamon Tierney, and there would be two very strong contenders for top placings up front. And Lachlan Campion will be a man who will run about 2:27, 2:28, and he will be a very good third link man in the team race. That's going to be a particularly interesting feature of this year's event, because there's £1,000 on offer to be split among the top 3 scoring team members.
As well as this event, of course, and the cerebral palsy and the wheelchair athletes, there is a fun run. Over 800 children between the ages of 9 and 15 are taking part in this, and those are the ones we're watching now. It's a Dublin Fun Run, organised by Dublin Community Games and sponsored by Cable Link. Children from all over Ireland and from even further afield are taking part, and there are due to be 8 wheelchair athletes involved in that as well. And if you'd like to take a look at this in more detail, Joe Maxey on Network 2 tonight at 6 o'clock will be looking back in particular at this event, the Dublin Marathon Children's Fun Run, being organised by Dublin Community Games.
I wonder, are these some of the marathon stars of the future? You know, I mean, you look at, they're round here today, they've seen all the stars going out, and they're thinking, God, when I'm maybe 18, 20 and start training for a marathon, because it'd be foolhardy to start training for a marathon now, but maybe I can train for a marathon, and one day I can be the first man or woman across the line in the Dublin City, in the Dublin Marathon.
Well, look at those faces, the smiles on those faces, they really are enjoying themselves.
Certainly set the scene, George, for future would-be champions, I'm sure, because no doubt many of the marathon runners in today's event got their inspiration in the early days of the Dublin Marathon from people like Jerry Kiernan and Neil Cusack, and that's how they started marathon running. But it's a great day for kids, it's great to see them out in the sunshine, and it's one of the great additions to the CDL Colite Dublin Marathon is to have an event for children, because it takes in all the areas of Dublin.
And this one is out towards the west of the city. And we'll pick them up a little later. A little later is in a couple of minutes, because right now we're going to take a short break.
Easier rinsing Jif leaves nothing behind but the shine.
Hello, I'm Maureen Craig, and this is our commercial for Radion.
Just know the way. Don't it dare collect.
Get a little that underarm.
Radion to the rescue.
Hey, Mom, what can you do with this?
Nothing. R-A-D-I-O-N.
Perfect.
We have the privilege of looking at the sights along the way. The marathon runners on David Road not able to take advantage of that. But those are the swans of the Grand Canal. David Road over there in Inchicore. Or is it called Grimna on that side of the canal?
We won't argue about which side is which, and we're coming up to the 4-mile mark. And they're on the road for a little over 18 minutes. And it's still Bobby Mitchell from Tommy Jordan, And number 47, the man with the stripe there, is Steve Watson from Lancashire. He hopes to do around 2:20. And all the main contenders are just in there. Seamus O'Donnell from Galway, Roy Dooney, head down as usual, the Cleamishes. Neil Cusick's the first time we've actually seen Neil. He's just there behind Richard Mulligan. Cleamish there, one of the Cleamishes just turned around. Richard Mulligan's behind him. So, as Frank was saying earlier on, I think there's going to be a major group for the first maybe 8 or 10 miles. Nobody will be too anxious to take it out.
Jerry O'Rourke in the wheelchair, just to keep you up to date with that, has gone through the 5-mile mark. 5 miles comes on Crumlin Road. Now these in Dribna are around the 4-mile mark.
Of course, we have the 2 national marathon champions in today's race, Roy Dooney in the men's and Christine Kennedy in the women's, who we're just picking up now. And they won the men's and women's title down in Clonmel earlier this year.
Christine Kennedy there in front of the ladies' event. A little yarn about her, which is just tells about how athletics operates really these days. Christine was over in Split at the European Championship. She lives in Paris, where her husband works. And Christine, who's originally from Galway, wanted to run this race, but was going to find it difficult because living in Paris, she had to get here. So a word in the right ear, and the organisers paid her way over, and she's here to win.
She's here to win, but I mean, I think she's fallen out with some of the family, the fact that she's running here today. Her brother-in-law actually got married yesterday. Christine didn't go to the wedding, but she's heading off to Galway tomorrow, so that she can go down and have a few pints with the newlyweds, and then she's coming back to Dublin for the rest of the week because her children want to go out for the Halloween party. And she's running there. Just in front of her is Brendan O'Shea. Brendan has been providing her with some tremendous help. He's just looking around there. Brendan, of course, would be also in contention for the Major Veterans Prize. And also around her, there's a lot of good club athletes. Just to the right there in the white shorts and the maroon top is Ollie Gallagher, a former Westmeath hurler. And I noticed, too, there was Joe Rankin from Dunor, who's round Christine. That's Joe there all in blue, just to the left of Christine on our screen. So they'll provide Christine with any shelter from the breeze that she might need, as well as help her to get through to a good time.
Of course, if she gets anywhere near her best time of 2:36.54, it could well be good enough to win today's race.
This is the front we're looking at now. They've been along the banks of the Grand Canal.
Tommy Mitchell still leading there, George, yeah. And Tommy Jordan is there. Tommy led the race, if people remember, last year. He led it for a number of miles. And Tommy is a young runner from Ferns down in Wexford. He's a highly talented guy over, say, 6 miles and 10 miles, but he has yet to fulfill anything like his marathon potential. And I think you won't see Tommy having a really serious go at today's marathon. But lurking there in the background are people like Roy Dooney, I see, is coming up there to the front of the bunch. He's in the red singlet. And one of the Cleamish twins is there on the outside of the picture. I think it's Pavel Cleamish, who won the event here in 1987. Of course, that was a memorable marathon when Pavel and Peter Cleamish finished 1-2 in the 1987 marathon and finished in a sprint finish, actually, into the finish.
Can't help but feel that Brendan O'Shea is sacrificing his own chances of victory in the Veterans Prize, because he just keeps looking around for Christine, and she's sitting there right on his shoulder. It's almost as if saying to her, Christine, come on, keep up right behind me. And Brendan, at 6 foot or thereabouts, to provide Christine, who's a little over 5 foot, with all the shelter that she'd need in the windy conditions.
Real bubbly little personality, Christine, and it's good to see her here, because obviously the better the quality of the field, the better the race will eventually be.
Yes, she's a mother of she's 3 young kids, and she's had to relocate a number of times in her life because of her husband's job. First it was to England, and later to Paris. But she's really, any place she's had to move to, she gets fully stuck in. She's now learning French, training twice a day, raising her children, and she recently won the Paris to Versailles 15k road race. That was a very prestigious win there about 3 weeks ago.
Well, we'll say good morning, Grimna. You're looking well. I think that's where you are, Ger.
4.5 miles, 5 miles gone in the race. There's really a terrific atmosphere down here. It's a sun-splashed morning, a little bit chilly, as you've mentioned earlier on. But people were making the point to me in the last week or so that, well, the hype of the early 80s in the marathon had died down somewhat. Well, I think it's back up again this year. People are responding, and they're coming out and they're cheering. And when we were going down the Grand Canal there just a moment or two ago, I was looking at a couple of ladies up on the top tier of a very tall building, babe in arms, and they applauding the athletes as they were going by. Good old-style Dublin City Marathon, a la the 80s once again, I think.
Well, just to repeat the point, Jer's at the head of the field, though he win no prize today as he's travelling on that flatbed truck. The marathon will be moving on through Crumlin towards Terranure, and that's in the immediate future. So if you're sitting in there with a cup of tea, why not put it down? You can make another one in a minute or two. Get out onto the street and give them a cheer as they come past.
I think maybe some of the backmarkers would appreciate the old cup of tea, so if you feel like making them a cup later on, you can go out and give it to them.
But this is serious. And just to reiterate the point there, those orange numbers, they signify the elite athletes. In the wheelchair event, he is further back. Jerry O'Rourke has been setting the pace in that. But in the wheelchair events, this man has been overhauled by the main body of competitors in the marathon itself.
The red vest there of Martin Farrell from Thurles. And Martin will be leading the Thurles team here, who will be chasing the £1,000 team prize. But up front it's still Bobby Mitchell, the Bray runner, and he's leading that pack of, there must be 10 to 12 runners in that pack at the moment. And we see the Cleamish twins, Seamus O'Donnell, Roy Dooney, they're all packed in there together. And it's interesting to see that a couple of the runners, including Johnny Bulger, are wearing a cap to protect them from the pretty intense sunshine at this time of the morning.
The front group has opened up a sizable gap, as you can see there. Being well and truly strung out.
We've just passed the 5-mile mark in a little over 25 minutes. So it's fairly solid pace running.
They're right about the National Children's Hospital in Crumlin at the moment. And we'll leave the marathon for the moment and concentrate again on the fun run. Dublin Community Games fun runners, the youngsters who are making their way around St. Stephen's Green. And finishing just in front of the side buildings on St. Stephen's Green.
That's some solid running by those youngsters, running under 6 minutes for the mile, because it's two laps, 2 miles.
This is the type of event that has gone particularly well in a place called Gateshead, where they have the Great North Run. And a children's event there brings thousands of children onto the streets of Gateshead every year. And again, they're the type of runners who filter into the main event in a few years' time.
And these athletes give it all. I mean, you can see them there coming down the last sprint. They're fighting all the way down. Here's a chap in red now. He's going to get in front, yes, he made it. So you see, that just proves that no race is ever over until actually 5 yards beyond the finish line.
This is the main event, of course. Tom Jordan, 4:1:43. Behind him, Steve Watson from Lancashire. And Roy Dooney, and those orange numbers, or orange-backed numbers, signifying that the real business is now beginning. The elite athletes are in the leading group. At 5 miles, they've taken 26 minutes and 48 seconds.
They'll be on for there about 2:15, 2:16. That'll be the type of marathon schedule they're on at the moment. And certainly Jerry Kieran's record, 2:13, will take some beating here today, actually, because you need to be going a little bit brisker early on in the marathon to achieve that. And there's a bonus prize, of course, today for anybody to break 2:13. But the nature of this race, if people are not prepared to break free and go out and set the pace, it could well be in the region of 2:14 to 2:16, that the men's marathon could be actually won today.
But I also think the fact that the weather forecast has been telling us that we were going to have dreadful conditions today may have, the athletes subconsciously might have thought, well, I won't go too fast because I want to make sure that I finish it in a good condition. Whereas you get up this morning and beautiful blue skies, it's a great day as always for the Dublin Marathon, and I mean then you've got to readjust in your mind the fact that you can go for sub 2:13. As we had a look back at Christine Kennedy, she's moving very comfortable at this stage. Definitely well protected. There's lots of guys around her. They say Ollie Gallagher to the right, Joe Rankin there in the blue, and Brendan O'Shea right in front of her.
We haven't seen anything of Ursula Noctor yet, so we don't know if she went to the line. But her coach, Jim Kilty, had been saying that if there was anything like an element of a breeze in the forecast for today, he would pull his runner and have her run in Columbus, Ohio on the 11th of November, because it's going to be Ursula's first marathon, and he wanted her to get ideal conditions as possible for her debut over the classic distance. But Christine seems to be certainly the woman up front in the race so far today.
They just passed the National Children's Hospital, so they're proceeding through Crumlin and on their way to the Cherry Tree roundabout in Walkinstown. When they get there, it's into St. Peter's Road, and if they care to look up ahead of them, they'll see the Dublin Mountains rise above them. Looking at the elite athletes there. Tom Hughes from Maharan, County Derry, is number 51, and 50 Roy Dooney from Dublin in the red. Tommy Hughes is a runner who has a lot of marathons under his belt, and we just check on how they were after 5 miles.
Yes, there was something on about 2:15, 2:16 pace at 5 miles, and that's a nice, comfortable pace. It's not earth-shattering by any means, but it's a good, solid pace, and if they carry that, they should be hitting in the region of about 2:15, 2:16. That's a type of predicted time at the moment. But of course, the bonus money here today on a 2:13 performance, 2:13 or under, that will gain the extra money.
And that's how it is at the front of the field right now. Tom Jordan on the left, Roy Dooney in the centre, and in the stripes, Steve Watson. Well, what do you make of that?
Well, it's one way of getting around the course, but I don't know whether it would qualify under IAAF rules. But it's quite, I think it would be nearly as difficult to run as it is to skate, because you've still got to use your legs.
Probably is, but it's one of the features of the marathon that it's a fun event for a lot of people down the field, and they just make it a really joyous occasion and a day to celebrate a bit of fitness and enjoy the weather, and I think that's what that type of competitor is all about.
Well, at the head of affairs, we're looking at the men doing the running, and doing the travelling for us is Ger Canning.
Yes, George, they've just in fact passed the 6-mile mark, and they did that in 32 minutes exactly. So a little over 5-minute miles at the moment. Very hot pace, very hot conditions as well, as you can see from the expressions on the faces that we're watching on screen. And again, the crowds continue to come out. We're on St. Peter's Road right now.
41 on the left of picture there, and another of the elite athletes, John Bulger. Still back in Stephen's Green. The youngsters complete their fun run. It's quite an experience for them, I should think, to actually be running with a crowd and on a marathon course, effectively, even if they're not running the marathon.
I would think it's a great thrill for them. I mean, I know some of them, the way they're finishing down here now, they're not as fit as the athletes who finished in 11 minutes or thereabouts, but at least they're out, they're part of the day, and it's great. It's great to be out and, you know, there's a whole lot of people around. I mean, when you go to some of the races, there mightn't be, okay, there's your parents, obviously there, most of these DLOE races, but at community games. But it's nice that there are other adults who are not actually your parents or your friends' parents. There's other people, and they'll cheer you and appreciate what you're doing.
Meanwhile, as they say, in all the West Circles, this is how it looks at the front. Roy Dooney is well positioned. John Bulger from Clare. And Steve Watson from Lancashire.
Indeed, Johnny Bulger has been, many people have said that he could well be a dark horse here today, because he's a very solid competitor, very consistent in his efforts. And he has actually declared for Canada at one point. He worked in Canada a few years ago, ran for Canada in the World Cross Country a few times. And now he's back working for Rialta in Cavan, or in Shannon. But there we see Bernie Stankard from Galway. And again, she is one of the most improved marathon runners in the country. She was laid low by injury there for about a year and a half, but she's back in tremendous shape at the moment. And she, of course, is a teammate of Christine Kennedy, and works down in a hospital in Galway, and seems to be really enjoying her effort here today.
She's second to Christine at the moment in the ladies section of the Dublin Marathon. But what about this performance by Tom Jordan? This has been an outstanding achievement. I know we've only gone just over 6 miles, but he's up there prepared to mix it.
Well, he's taking all the, you know, the athletes don't have to worry about the pace that they're going at. If somebody else is doing it, it's easy to sit in the slipstream, and you can think about just keeping calm, keeping relaxed for the first few miles, and then you can really start doing your running, because really they say the real racing in a marathon doesn't start until actually you get beyond the 20-mile mark. So if somebody takes it out for 10, 12 miles, there's a lot of it. But I'm a bit worried about Roy Dooney. He keeps looking round. Wonder what is he looking round for? Is he looking for somebody who's got his tracksuit, where are his drinks, or is he just feeling the pace? I'm watching around to see how everyone else is looking in the face, but I think Roy himself is a bit pushed in the face.
Leading at the moment is Tom Jordan. There's the wheelchair battle going on. Bernie Stankard second in the women's event to Christine Kennedy.
Bernie Stankard, of course, many women in her position would have given up the sport when she had to miss out several months because of injury. But Bernie is a very, very resilient type of person, and she loved her running so much that she persevered, got treatment all over the place, and eventually got a cure to a recurring injury, and she's absolutely delighted to be in contention for the top honours here today.
Now
Seamus O'Donnell there of Galway, another teammate of Christine Kennedy and Bernie Stankard. I see him taking over the lead at the moment.
The one we haven't mentioned is just to the right of picture there. That's him, Marty Dean, now qualified as a doctor, winner of the Belfast Marathon in the past.
I think the man in the cap there is actually Terry Mitchell from Fife. It's James O'Donnell there leading with the Cheshire Homes written on his singlet. And I think that looks, the man in the cap looks like Terry Mitchell from Fife, number 3 I think it is. And Roy Dooney just moving up nicely. And Tommy Jordan, one of the Cleamishes. I won't say which is which, because the two of them are there actually, and the other man with the cap, I think it's an Ireland cap, but that would be all right for Johnny Bulger to wear, because Johnny's the Air Rienta man in Moscow and Leningrad, so he spends his time between Shannon, Moscow and Leningrad. And
There's
Neil
an
Cusick
interesting
sitting
story
in
there as well, Catherine, on Terry Mitchell, because he's a very colourful character. He comes from Fife in Scotland, and he fell foul of the Scottish authorities on a number of occasions by running in professional events. And in fact, only the beginning of this month he was reinstated as an amateur. So he's had quite a checkered history with the Scottish Athletic Association. He is the best of 2:18.
Well, they are out there after 7 miles, 26 of course to go, a long way to go on this marathon. And that's the leading group. We'll take a break now and be back with the leaders very shortly.
The fun is back, oh yes siree. It's the 2600 from Atari. It's the video system with classics galore, from Space Invaders to cars that roar. A real hip joystick controls the screen. Solaris is hot and Midnight Magic's mean. And one more thing, it's got a special low price, under $50. $50? Now isn't that nice? The fun is back, oh yes siree. It's the 2600 from Atari.
I'll have the chick sticks. What's that? It's chicken fingers. Try them. If you don't, you'll regret it. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. And for the rest of your life. Okay. Lovely. Here's looking at you, kid.
I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
New chick sticks from the Bird's Eye Steakhouse, the best grill in town. Some anti-dandruff shampoos seem a bit too strong, too harsh to use too often. That's why Timotei have made their own anti-dandruff shampoo. One that's kind to your hair. So you can use it as often as you need. Timotei new anti-dandruff shampoo with natural herb extracts. Now you won't have dandruff, just beautiful hair.
Terry Mitchell from Scotland is in the lead in that group, which is in fact the leading group in this Dublin Marathon. And the figure there of one of the Cleameshes with his brother on his shoulder. It's Peter who is the one who's leading the pair of them at the moment, and in the middle, Pavel, former winner of the Dublin Marathon, which is why he's wearing number 1.
How very appropriate.
Now, these people set out on the marathon course at 9 o'clock this morning to walk the marathon course, and they are just past, or just coming to, Leeson Street Bridge, the 12-mile mark, which is almost halfway. Halfway comes up in Bath Avenue in Sandymount. They're approaching Leeson Street Bridge, and they've decided to go for a bit of a stroll today. But not this lady here, Christine Kennedy. It's all very serious for her. Still, she is protected, making her way along St. Peter's Road. Did you ever work out, Frank, how many times your feet touch the ground in the course of a marathon?
Well, I'm sure there has been statisticians have got everything to do with the marathon worked out, but I'd say it's many, many, many thousand times. But Terry Mitchell won't be worrying about that at the moment, because his intention is to string out this pack at the moment now and try and possibly open up a little bit of a break, maybe where he takes a few runners clear with him. His best time is 2:18, and he recently ran a 10-miler in Preston in 48:20 and ran a half marathon in just under 65 minutes. But his preparation for Dublin was a little bit hindered this year because, as I said, he was suspended by the Scottish Amateur Athletic Association for running in a couple of professional events and taking a little bit of money on the side.
They're making their way down past Rathfarnham. They're approaching that crossroads that you may be familiar with, Rathfarnham Road and Dodder Park Road. The River Dodder just to their left. And that bridge that you can see leads into Bushy Park. Well, the Dublin City Parks Department is I suppose you could say, an unsung hero in the people who look after the city in which we live. St. Stephen's Green is always a picture, and this is just proof that that's not the only jewel in their crown. Bushy Park, looking so well.
I have to echo those sentiments, George, and I really think they don't get full credit for what they do. They always have the parks looking beautiful. They always have the appropriate flowers in for the appropriate season. And really, I don't think we as Dubliners don't appreciate all the work that goes in to the parks. I mean, you know, you talk about parks. Look at that for a sight now. I mean, it's perfect.
So that's the beauty of the scenery that's surrounding this marathon, and there'll be more to come, of course, as they head down towards the Liffey and then cross it and head off into the north of the city. Ger Canning is still at the head of affairs.
George, we've just passed the southernmost point in this year's Dublin City Marathon, Springfield Drive. That's exactly 8 miles into the race. And since I last gave you an update, they've been running particularly consistently at the head of the field, averaging, well, in fact, going exactly 5 minutes and 12 seconds per mile. They went through the 6-mile mark in 32 minutes. They were 37.12 for 7, and just recently 42.14 for 8 miles. So it's good, consistent running at the head of the field, and the makings of a right good marathon.
Thank you, Ger. Bernie Stankard, meanwhile, still looking composed.
I think then the question has been answered. Ursula Noctor mustn't be in the field, or else she's gone out extremely conservatively. Now, I know Christine Kennedy would go out very hard, and Bernie Stankard, if she wants to improve her personal best, she ran 2:48 in the National Marathon, so if she wants to get down to her estimated time of around 2:45, she'd have to go a little bit faster than that. As we look back at once again, the beauty of Dublin.
This is the leading group now we're looking at again, and it's beginning to break up. It's early, of course, in the course of a marathon to be striking for home, but there are all sorts of little tactical games played along the way.
Well, I think now that looks like Johnny Bulger who is taking the lead, and we're coming into Johnny's home territory. Johnny is a Dubliner, of course. I know he's down in the programme as John, but when he ran in Dublin, he was always known as Johnny Bulger, so I'm afraid I always think of him as Johnny. So Johnny's taking the lead. He's coming into his home territory. He's from just out the south side around Aylesbury Road, that area. He's a graduate of UCD, and then he went off to Canada for a few years, and he represented Canada, and he was 5th in this marathon some 2 years ago. So he'll be anxious. These are the paths that he's known well, so he's going to make the boys pay for any slackness that they might be feeling at this stage. And Roy Dooney there just keeping a very close eye, so maybe Roy's going to go the full way.
Yes, Johnny Bulger has a best of 2:18.50, and he finished 5th in Dublin in 1988 when he set that time. He has no previous marathon victory, but he has been regarded as one of the people who can run a very, very solid performance here today. Roy Dooney, of course, is a fearless competitor, loves to run from the front, and even though he's had a few trying experiences over the marathon this year, winning the National Marathon, running in Split as well, he certainly can never be underestimated on the day.
I think Roy is the kind of guy who never knows when he's beaten. He's a really gritty runner. He's possibly not the most talented, but I mean, he makes up in the determination what he might lack in absolute talent, as Johnny Bulger appears to make a little bit of break, and we've just passed the 9-mile split, 47 minutes 18 seconds, so they're running fairly consistently, a little over this 5-minute miling.
That was Terranure Cross they've just negotiated. They're now on to Terranure Road West, down past the new Garda station on their left. Geraldine Kennedy still leads the women's event. Second place is Bernie Stankard.
That, I think, number 157, that is actually Heather Heisman running for Invicta in Kent, and she was actually 11th in the Great North Run in a time of 76 minutes odd, so she's got some kind of form too. She's hoping to do a little over the 2:40.
Tommy Hughes of Mahara as well, he's up there in front. lying in third position at the moment. And Tommy is a really tough competitor. He has won a number of international marathons.
Now, we're at Leeson Street Bridge, one of our fixed camera positions, and that is Jerry O'Rourke, the leading wheelchair competitor. Took a little breather there. I suppose if you've battled on like that, you can afford to. He's seen off the opposition. Now, he's not yet at the halfway point, but the opposition's some way behind. Back on Terranure Road West, it's the elite runners, the leading group.
And it's definitely the elite now. Terry Mitchell, the other man in the cap, Johnny Bulger. So it's really down to the battle now. The early pacemaker, Tommy Jordan, he's gone off the pace. So this is the real, that's Richard Mulligan just there at the back, keeping an eye on affairs, and Neil Cusick sitting in there nicely. I was just talking to Neil earlier on today, and he's changed his whole approach to life, and he's got much more relaxed. This is a crowd, I think, just there to the left. They look as if they set out rather earlier than 11 o'clock. And they're collecting for a charity, so I say that's one of the great things about this event. They're all going around collecting for charity. Many of us have been cleared out for it. A few bob.
Tommy Hughes, the Mahara runner, now does his club running for Duncairn Olympic in Belfast. Interesting little thing about this marathon, and it applies to, I suppose, all marathons, but there's a team, Davy Seaton and the boys from the Belfast Marathon are down here enlisting athletes for their marathon next year, which will be their 10th anniversary. And they told me that they get 40% of their competitors from Dublin and the Irish Republic.
That's true. The boys always come down. There's great fun and there's a great bit of crack. And there's the second group, and the back man and that, and the Clonliffe singlet and the black and yellow strip is Lachlan Campion. But to get back to Belfast, there's a Belfast man actually leading that second group on the right in the front. It's Robin Bryson. He's actually a fireman now, so being a fireman in Belfast, he's given up his PhD in geography. He's doing fireman, so he's just finding it difficult. The hours haven't helped his running, but he's out there today giving it a bash.
Now there's the John Cregan in the wheel. Cerebral palsy section of the event. Everybody gets their fun out of competing in a marathon. Now they're approaching 10 miles. 10 miles is on Lower Kimmage Road. That's the old KCR there. They've just turned onto Lower Kimmage Road and heading down towards Mount Argus. You were making the point about Robin Bryson. Of course, he began life as a Dubliner. He's now a Belfast man, so Dublin can claim him if he wins.
Well, I don't know now. I think he's from Newcastle. I remember discussing the matter with him there earlier on. He was in Newcastle up in County Down. He's actually the Dublin senior cross-country champion. He took it. He's a man who loves the hills. He's a hill runner as well. But no doubt he'll be going out in Belfast possibly in next May.
Well, we were looking at Robin Bryson's group, and that's the gap that exists between them and the leading pack. Now,
and of course, Robin is also the national 15K champion for 1990. He won that race in Ballinamore earlier this year.
Of course, you can't run a marathon without closing the roads, and the Dublin City Fathers make sure that everything is absolutely properly organised for this event to take place, well aware that it can show the city in the best possible light. Suppose that could take your mind off the pain.
Well, he's actually asking for a lift, so he must be obviously feeling some pain. But I would imagine, actually, the first time I ever met Frank Greeley, he was actually running along the seafront with a radio in his hand, so he was the first of the men with the Walkmans.
That's a long time ago, Catherine. Longer than I care to remember.
Back at Leeson Street Bridge, this is not the leading group in the wheelchair section. Jerry O'Rourke is well through. Jerry O'Rourke is actually past the halfway point in Bath Avenue. Back at Leeson Street Bridge, this is the next group of wheelchair competitors. Jerry has thrown down the gauntlet to them.
interesting to watch the wheelchair there. Some of them have actually got a helmet for protection, so that'll give you an idea of the speed. If they turn a corner too fast, they could easily turn out of the chair and go on their heads, but taking the precaution by wearing a protective helmet.
Leading group.
This is the real race. This is what the winner is definitely going to come out of that group. And every one of them is just wondering how the other is feeling. Will I make the break now? Will I hang on? We'll see what's going.
In the red, it's Roy Dooney. Sustenance feeding station in Kimmage. Moving down towards, as I was saying earlier, Harold's Cross and Mount Argus.
Dooney, of course, has an excellent personal best. He's run 2:14:38 back in 1985. And he ran his first marathon here in Dublin in 1981. He ran 2:20:46 on that occasion.
So the next landmark will be Mount Argus Church, and then Harold's Cross, and then they'll turn to run along the banks of the Grand Canal.
Probably be looking for a bit of divine inspiration from the church at Harold's Cross.
Clemesh twins on the left of picture there. Still very definitely in contention in that leading group. Johnny Bulger, front of the moment. That's Harold's Cross. A little park. The two roads meet.
How are we doing time-wise, Dan?
How they're doing time-wise, Frank will tell you.
I think it's somewhere in the region of about 2:17, 2:18. I haven't seen the splits. They're at 11 miles now. They seem to be running about just a little bit over 5-minute miling. And certainly to get the record here today, they'd want to be running just marginally over 5 miles, or 5 minutes per mile. But I see Tommy Hughes has taken up the lead, and Tommy is a former winner of the Marrakesh Marathon, and he's one of the toughest of competitors. He's a man who has an ability to run a marathon every couple of months, and to run consistently at that as well. He can always churn out around 2:14, 2:16 in that region. But Dooney is making a determined run as well. Roy Dooney pushing it up there in the front as well. Dooney is never found wanting when it comes to making the pace.
they come down to the Harold's Cross Bridge, they'll make a right and then head towards Leeson Street Bridge, where, as we were saying earlier on, we have one of our fixed cameras. It really is some technological feat, this, I think you'd agree. 3 helicopters in the air, 1 camera in front of the leaders, another on the back of a motorbike, one in the helicopter, and then various other cameras around in fixed positions, including the one at Leeson Street Bridge, where Terry Kelly will be waiting to talk to some of those a little further down the field.
Well, I don't think he'll get a chance to talk to some of the leaders, or they probably wouldn't have time or energy to waste to talk to Jerry at that stage. No doubt they'll have many of them will be able to have a few words with them after they finish. But I think the main business now is to keep the group together, hang on, don't let Roy Dooney push it along too much.
Back on the canal. This is Grove Road, the name of the street. We'll head on down Canal Road, Grand Parade, and eventually Mescal Road. So they're heading back into the centre of the city of Dublin. And the next mile marker is 12 miles, which comes on Grand Parade.
Indeed, Roy Dooney, he confessed there just before the marathon today that it was purely the £5,000 first prize money that had motivated him and made him decide to enter today's race. He saw it as a great challenge to pick up a good paycheck towards the end of the road racing season.
I think Roy would actually like to win the Dublin Marathon. Being a Dubliner himself, I think there'd be an added incentive, as I feel Johnny Bulger would too, because it's nice to win a marathon in your own home city. I know that it means an awful lot to Dick Hooper, and I imagine it would mean the same to the 2 Dubliners there.
Frank, you're... Well, I was about to make a point that Frank was going to make in a moment, because we've just allowed ourselves the opportunity of looking at one of the... Guess where he's from. Scots involved in this event. Number 395 that we were looking at there, sporting his tartan colours, was Alex Stewart, a doctor. I was going to make the point to Frank, in this day and age, we talk about sports people earning money, that £5,000 paycheck, as you call it, is officially known as a training grant.
Yes, it would have to go into the BLE, the National Association for Athletics Fund, who manage a trust fund for athletes like Roy Dooney and other elite athletes. 5% of the money would go to BLE for administering that fund, but when he retires, or if he needs the money for training over the next couple of years, Roy Dooney, any money he has in his trust fund at this point, can draw from it, or he can leave it there until he retires, and it's a nice little earner while he's doing so.
Yes, it's not quite as simple as earning money from athletics yet, anyway.
No, and of course, George, one of the benefits that has happened with athletes in the last 2 years is that once upon a time they had to pay 15% to the National Association, and by common agreement that has been reduced down to 5%. So it's only a 5% levy now on our athletes.
So to get back to that trust fund, it would help. It also helps to up-and-coming athletes who wouldn't get the chance to run in these races in international competition. So the few shillings that the athletes who win today could go into the coffers of BLE and help the National Association to provide the much-needed international competition for our ordinary athletes.
Now, the car in the front of that convoy, the Fiat, is a car that will end up in the possession of one of the athletes taking part in this event. It's not all about money, it's not even all about the winning. But that is one of the prizes, and it'll be won from this event. And this is the group who are aiming to win things. The front of affairs on Grand Parade, the 12-mile mark.
Well, that's Mary Jennings. Mary's from Waterford. Well, she used to run for what is now Dundrum, South Dublin at one stage, but she's back running for her native Waterford. But she's living in Dublin. She's a teacher in Willow Park College out there in Blackrock. And we think that she's actually in third place. She's married to another international athlete, Brian Jennings.
Yes, and Mary, would you believe, is going away during the week to run in the New York Marathon as well. Mary won the national title down in Kerry 2 years ago, and on that occasion she won a free flight to New York. Now she became pregnant in the meantime, had a baby, and is only just back in training a few months. I think she's back about 3 months in training at the moment, but she's taking up the trip to New York next week, and she hopes to complete both marathons.
At this stage it looks like Johnny Bulger has actually made a bit of a break as they're coming to Lisa Street Bridge.
That's the confirmation of it. And the Clemesh challenge is still intact.
Which of them is it, though?
Well, they're both there, second and third, so at this stage it hardly matters.
We won't argue. There's about 2 seconds as there was the last time they ran in this race between them. The rest of them are got to get into the slipstream there and not let any gap, but this group is actually finally broken up and they're all in single file. So now the real racing is on. Johnny Bulger has thrown down the gauntlet, and this is the real race.
Bespel Road they're on now. Across Bagot Street, just by Bagot Street Bridge. Head on down Haddington Road towards Bath Avenue, which is the halfway point in this marathon.
They're possibly in one of the most picturesque areas of the course at the moment, with the trees and the canal there.
Passing Patrick Kavanagh's seat down there. Wonder if he were alive today what he'd make in verse of a Dublin Marathon.
And this is back with Heather Heisman from Invicta. She's getting some protection too from the athletes beside her. Number 1338, and they'll help her along so that if she finds that she's feeling the pace, number 338 is Thomas Riley from Dublin, so he'll help her along. She hopes to do about 2:40, so I mean I think that she might be quite close to Christine Kennedy at the finish.
On the left, I'll picture there, 2486 is Noel Garvey from Kildare. Back of the leaders, and those are the two Clemesh twins. On the left, it's Pavel. Paul. And on the right, it's Pavel.
Well, if you say Peter and Paul, you're bound to get one of them right.
And it's interesting to see Richard Mulligan is sitting in there, biding his time, and this, of course, is Richard's first marathon. He's the national 10,000 metres champion, and it's his first attempt over the distance. But he seems to be very comfortable, and the pace is not troubling him unduly. But it's certainly the pace seems to be picking up now a little bit, and some of the runners who were in the pack have had to concede ground. It looks like there are about 6 to 8 runners there now in the main pack. Roy Dooney still in contention, the two Clemesh twins, and of course Johnny Bulger leading them out.
Yes, just to repeat that about the two Clemesh twins, that number 1 is the previous winner of this event, Pavel, and number 52 is his twin brother, Peter. And Roy Dooney completes the quartet at the head of affairs.
I think the 1981 winner, Neil Cusick, has gone off the back of that pack. But I think Richard Mulligan looks very good at this stage. You never know with Richard by looking at his face how he's feeling. He just runs along there. And we're back with Christine Kennedy, and she's still there, still well protected by the lads. Joe Rankin, that's number 1773, Chris Keeling from Fingal.
Now, the leaders are in Bath Avenue, or approaching Bath Avenue on Haddington Road, while Christine Kennedy, the leading lady, is back at Harold's Cross Bridge. So if you know your Dublin, you know your South Canal Bank, you'll know how far back she is. Halfway, Frank? There you are.
Yeah, it's moderate enough. It's 1:07:47. If they were able to pick it up over the second part of this race, 2:13 is a possibility. I don't think a sub 2:13 is a possibility, but it's certainly nice steady running at this point.
Well, they say the best way to get a good time in a marathon is to keep it steady all the way. But but I think they may have gone off a little bit too steady. But it's a good race. That's the most important thing, is that it's a good competitive race, and I wouldn't like to put my money on anybody at this stage.
No, it's wide open at the moment because you have a combination of different type of runners here. You have Richard Mulligan, who's very strong, relatively fast as well, and you have people then like Tommy Hughes, who are just good, solid competitors. May not be the fastest in the world, but will never be caught for a good, solid, steady pace. Roy Dooney, of course, he seems to be viewing up the field here. This has happened since the beginning. He's looking to see how fellas are feeling. He seems to be feeling pretty okay himself, and he may be trying to psych up guys as well to see, or psych them out, to say, well, I'm not feeling too bad, I'm just having a check and seeing how you're looking at the moment.
But I wonder about it. Roy looks a bit pushed in the face. It's Christine Kennedy, still shielded there by Ollie Gallagher. And the last time we saw her, Brendan O'Shea was just beside her, so they're really bringing her along.
She looks to be running very smoothly. Well, she said she would only come to win it.
Well, she showed excellent form only 2 weeks ago in winning the Paris to Versailles 15k, and ironically that was the same day as the World 15k was on here in Dublin. So she beat a very good field over there, and seems to be thriving on the relocation in Paris. She lives just outside of Paris, where her husband works in Paris City.
Johnny Bulger, Roy Dooney, Pavel and Peter Klimish, Richard Mulligan. Who else is in the back there?
I don't actually know. I can't see who's quite in there in the back in the blue. But it must have warmed up considerably. It was a bit chilly earlier on because Johnny Bulger actually had gloves and he's discarded them.
Now, we're back at Leeson Street Bridge. And there's a good crowd out to see them. And cheer them on their way. Well, it's well for some, isn't it? Cooling refreshments on the canal. This is Christine Kennedy's group, still. And it's the leading group, Sandymount. Bulger, Dooney, Klimish and Klimish. Heading towards the East Link Bridge. No charge for those on foot. Christine Kennedy leading the women's section of the race is approaching Leeson Street Bridge. Some of the walkers there making their way along too. The clock tells them how long they've been on the road.
Roy Dooney watching every move of all the leaders. He's moved back up into the front, and this group has regrouped. So still Johnny Bulger pushing it along. Dooney on his shoulder. But sitting in there, looking very, very comfortable, is Richard Mulligan. And we're coming now to the area that Richard would know best. So maybe he'll decide to go for glory, going up Lawrence's Road, up the Hoth Road, and wave to the fans and to the two children in at home.
Great encouragement there from the local residents.
Of course, the Klimish twins had an excellent preparation in some ways for this race, because on the Glasgow to London race, it was 20 days consecutive racing. They ran in distances from 6 miles to the half marathon over a period of 20 days. And in that race, which was about 6 weeks ago, they collected between them £11,000 in prize money. Some would say that that was very good preparation for the marathon. Others would say that they would feel that sort of effort in their legs in maybe the last 6 miles of today's event.
I would think actually they might feel that in the last few miles of the race. If somebody puts in a really hard burst, they were running fairly steadily. One of them was 29th and one of them was 40th. So they might feel that in the last few miles. If somebody tries to really put in maybe a 5-minute mile in the last 3 or 4 miles, and then that's when they'll feel this 20 days of continuous racing. I know you can do it on a bike, but it's a different thing doing it on racing every day. As you said earlier on, Jerry Kiernan tried it, and it just didn't come up, it became unstuck. And most of the athletes who actually finished in that great run from Glasgow to London were, shall we say, athletes who were older than the two Cleamishes, well in their 40s.
Yes, that would be correct. In fact, as I mentioned earlier on, today the Cleamish twins celebrate their 32nd birthday here in Dublin. And I'm sure they would be delighted if they were to take between them the top two prizes in the marathon, particularly the £5,000 first prize.
Down the approach road to the Eastlink Bridge. And still Johnny Bulger in front. It's all gone a little quiet there, but then of course they have moved away from an area where the houses would be close to the road, and it's easy for folk to step outside and cheer them on. Maybe they get a cheer from the toll booths.
Maybe there'll be a couple of jingle of money from the toll.
There they are. Ringsend. That's where they hold the old regatta. The Liffey moves into the sea.
Look at them here. Johnny Bulger is bringing them on a zigzag course, and the athletes are all following as they would in a cycle race. They're all moving across the road. That's an unusual thing. You don't often see athletes doing that. The group we're looking at now look like walkers. The others are still down near the boat club there. They haven't yet to come to the toll bridge.
And Bulger, that little tactic has put a little distance between him and the rest.
Yes, he seems to have gained about 5 metres at least there, and that a little bit of a surge there at the moment. And Johnny Bulger is definitely the leader on the road at the moment. There's a little bit of daylight between himself and the pack, and no better place for Johnny to do it if he can maintain this type of tempo, because he's a very, very solid, consistent runner. You'll never, if Johnny goes to the front, he knows what he's about, and he knows that he can sustain the effort when he goes to the front.
So there's Dublin looking well, the Pigeon House way out in the distance, and our track will take us through the north of the city. But as they cross the Eastlink Bridge, we're going to pause on the action now. We'll be back after this. Now we're looking down at Dublin from a position over the East Wall Road, the docks area. They'll be leaving behind and heading up into Clontarf. This is the leading group. Bulger, the Cleamish twins. Roy Dooney was in there too. We're looking for him. He seems to have slipped back a little bit. And this is Christine Kennedy, who's the leading woman.
Christine looks good at this stage. Doesn't look under pressure. When we saw her earlier on, she seemed to be talking to some of the athletes, but I think the talking has stopped and into the hard running. She actually looks as if she may be moving ahead of the coach. Oh, that's serious.
That's how they are after 10 miles. Christine Kennedy is in front. Bernie Stankard in second place. Then the English lady Heather Heisman. Breed Murphy from Cork. Mary Jennings and Brenda McNamara. Those are the top 6 in the women's section. And this is the leader of that section, Christine Kennedy.
We're back up with the leaders, and it's still Johnny Bulger, but the gap has been closed by the two Cleamishes, and the man in 4th position is Tommy Hughes, while in 5th there it's Kevin McCluskey from Cumbria, and he hopes to do around 2:20. So it looks as if Roy Dooney has shot his bolt.
Kevin does a lot of his running in the northeast of England, which of course is a whole very serious athletics, and he's renowned there as a distance runner. Roy Dooney in the red there has been dropped. He and Richard Mulligan have lost a little ground on those leading athletes.
I think the fact that Roy may have had 2 hard marathons has finally caught him.
Yes, I'd have to agree there, because both he and Richard just wouldn't let that gap open if they were capable of maintaining the pace. But it's down now to, I think, 5 runners, and Johnny Bulger still looks very confident. The problem is going to be, of course, if the Cleamish twins start working together. And I think that's about to happen at the moment. They'll run in tandem, that's their style, and they will try and gradually wear down this group. And they have this down to a perfect art form, actually, running together in unison, and I think you will see now that they will try and open up a little gap on Hughes, McCluskey and Bulger. They're the first time they have come up to the front of the pack, and they're making a determined bid now, just trying, like Johnny Bulger tried a while ago, to see if there's any give. Can they open up maybe 5-10 yards and see can they push it on further from there.
Johnny Bulger just discarded his hat, so the real race is on.
Murphy from the Special Olympics is responsible for operating the feeding station down here at Leeson Street Bridge. Marion, how did the Special Olympics get involved?
Well, I suppose the organisers have asked different other organisations to set up these water stations, and we were glad of the opportunity because a lot of the people running here from athletics clubs we would call on from time to time, call on their expertise to help with training within Special Olympics, and it's our chance to maybe say, well, thank you, and now we're doing something for all of these athletes and the athletic clubs.
So how many people have you along here helping you now?
There are about 30 or 35 of us, I think, on last count there. We have about 3 stations close by, one here, there. We have a sponge station just farther down. So somewhere between 30 and 35 of us.
Having a quick wash.
So,
tell me, how many cartons of water are you going to get out?
We filled about 4,000 cartons this morning, or we'll put straws into them. They're already filled when they came to us. And by the looks of things, I would say we'd probably run dry at some stage. They're going fairly well. The runners, the first lot of runners that have come through now have all been as if waiting for this water station and then grabbing the cartons fairly quickly.
Well, of course, the weather's been pretty good up to this, but looking at the dark clouds coming in now, I'm beginning to wonder.
Looking a little bit dodgy now. They might be having water from the skies instead of depending on us for it, but should we keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best.
All right, Marion, thank you very much for talking to us.
Well, if you have a look at that sky, you may well appreciate that there is a thunderstorm about to descend upon Dublin. Certainly our position back in Stephen's Green, it's got appreciably chillier than it was earlier on, and we could all be in for a rather wet spell.
George, did you not know that athletes always dodge the drops so they won't get wet? This, though, could be very serious from our point of view, because if this thunderstorm breaks, we could lose all pictures because the helicopters may have to be grounded. And if that happens, we then will be off the air, unfortunately, so we won't know what's going to happen, and this is building up to be a great race.
There in the middle of the pack is Kathleen Jordan, one of the great veteran runners in the women's race.
Familiar view to those familiar with the north of the city, if that's not stating the obvious. There's Bernie Stankford with the GCH of Galway City Harriers. He was second position in the women's event.
Of course, there's a bonus in the women's race as well for the runner who will break 2:35. But I can't see that being beaten here today for the bonus prize. But it would be something else if we had two Galway runners go 1-2 here today, and that looks likely.
And Tommy Hughes is going to make a little bit of a burst. There's a slight incline up St. Lawrence's Road, and he's going to make it hard, because Tommy likes to run hard, take it out, and make sure the athletes know, the guys around him know that they've been in a race. This is not very much of a climb, but after 16 or 17 miles of a marathon, it can be tough on the old legs, and if you're feeling anyway a little bit dodgy, somebody to put in a little bit of a burst, then you can pay the penalty.
One of the finest roads on the north bank of the Liffey, St. Lawrence's Road in Clontarf. Now the problem there, you see the old trees there, that's part of the problem with the pictures. Any stage that the motorcycle or the vehicle with the camera on board should go underneath trees, or even underneath, as at the Eastlink Bridge, the canopy at the toll booths, well then it breaks the signal that they're sending up to the helicopter, so obviously the picture will freeze, and technology is such that it grabs the last available shot that it had, and that's why the picture freezes. A little bit of a technological explanation there. Looking down from the helicopter on Clontarf. Now that's that road, St. Lawrence's Road, that I was describing as one of the North City's finest. Back at the bridge. Tommy Hughes, the two Clemesh runners, the twins, Kevin McCluskey in the blue. One of the later runners in the wheelchair event.
Of course, Johnny Bulger would love, ideally, to split the twins at this stage. While he has the two Clemesh twins running beside him, he knows that they have, that they have an added advantage by running together. And we saw Dick Cooper do this in 1987. He tried desperately to get away from the twins, but without success. Johnny Bulger will be trying to push it a little bit now, trying at least to see if one of them back off the pace.
I notice Richard Mulligan is making a determined effort, as I said he possibly would, as he's passing his own house in about 5 or 10 yards. Richard just lives in to the athlete's left, into the houses in there. Richard moved up there recently, and look at him, he's closing imperceptibly. He's moving along nicely now, and Richard will know this Hoth Road very well. He'll probably even be able to tell us the cracks in the road.
More than likely, and the important thing about Richard at the moment, he has not lost contact. He's still holding onto the curve there. He knows that the runners haven't made that significant break away from him, and he may have lost a little bit of ground, but he may have had a stitch, or he may have just had a bad patch. He's making a determined bid now to come back up on top of the pack.
Now those are the 6 involved in the front of affairs, while back at Leeson Street Bridge, the other athletes in this event. I described them as the other athletes, those who knew they weren't going to win the major laurels, but they have personal battles to win, personal mountains to overcome, and they are looking good on it, aren't they? Yes, it's
Shea McGovern there, the red-headed chap just going through. And Teresa Casserly giving him a hand along the course.
So these are moving through Leeson Street Bridge. We are going to pause in the marathon coverage as the Clemeshes move into the front. We're going to pause in our marathon coverage and bring you up to date with the latest happenings around the world with the very latest news.
Sports Special continues after the news summary and weatherline. And in the newsroom now, we join Don Coburn.
Good afternoon. The Taoiseach is believed to have been consulting some senior Fianna Fáil ministers this morning ahead of his meeting later today with the Progressive Democrats leader Mr O'Malley. The two men are expected to discuss the crisis over the presidential phone calls this afternoon, when Mr O'Malley will hear Mr Haughey's response to his demand that Fianna Fáil should restore the government's credibility. In the Gulf, President Gorbachev's special envoy has left Baghdad after failing to persuade President Saddam Hussein to compromise on his occupation of Kuwait. More than 300 French nationals detained by Iraq are expected to leave Baghdad later today. Here, one of the three TDs planning to travel to Iraq later this week, Michael B. Higgins of Labour, has said he intends to go ahead with the visit in spite of Mr Haughey's assertion that the government will discourage it. The Workers' Party in the North has called for the formation of a democratic convention against terrorism. It says public representatives should come together to sponsor such a body, whatever their differences on matters of politics or on issues of nationality and loyalty. Police in South Africa say 16 black men have been shot dead and at least 33 wounded in a series of attacks in Soweto township near Johannesburg. The killings were apparently in revenge for the killing of a Zulu migrant worker at the weekend. A man found dead this morning after yesterday's floods in County Antrim is now known to have been an officer of the North's Department of Agriculture. The 58-year-old man went missing after going to check on animals on farmland near Ballycastle. Well, that's all for now. Next news is at 6:15.
Hello there, and a very good afternoon to you. The marathon runner is enjoying a fine, dry morning, though it is a bit breezy, but plenty of showers over the rest of the country. Showers coming from low pressure, that low pressure up to the north of Scotland, and sending down quite a stiff west to northwest airflow over the country. Now, winds at the moment inland getting up to 15-20 miles an hour. Good deal stronger offshore, 30-35 miles an hour. In sea areas, that's a force 6 or 7. But later on, as we go into the night, those isobars packing a bit closer will bring the winds up to gale force, initially on the western seaboard, and later on tomorrow, really gales or strong gales right around our coasts, and the winds shifting to the northwest, so even dropping in temperature another couple of degrees. Now, at the moment over Ulster, Connacht, and down into Munster, that's where most of the showers have been this morning, and some quite heavy showers as well. Through the afternoon, those showers will continue, and there'll be more showers turning up over South Munster, Leinster, though not as many of them, nor will they be quite as heavy. But really, just about anywhere we could find those showers turning into hail, so getting a little bit wintry here and there, and perhaps even the odd clap of thunder to be heard. That's most likely over the very north of the country. Moving into the night hours then, and the showers becoming quite scattered across the country at first, but later on we do expect some cloud and some rain to push in across the northern part of the country, affecting Ulster, perhaps into northern Connacht. That'll clear away later in the night, and we'll just be back to showers as we go towards the latter part of the night. Temperatures today just 8 to 11 Celsius, that's pretty cool, and tonight they'll fall as low as 2 or 3 degrees, perhaps a touch of frost in one or two places. That's it, bye-bye.
Plenty of sports still to come this bank holiday Monday with the marathon and racing from Leopardstown. And Sports Special brings it all to you.
Welcome back. That's the scene at Leeson Street Bridge as the bulk of the field makes its way through. Well, this is the scene at the front. Now, they've just passed St. Bridget's Church, Killester, and moving on up the Hope Road. Johnny Bulger and the two Clemesh twins, the 18-mile time, a comment upon which from Frank.
Yes, Gallo there, they were running around 5:12, 5:14 miles, and again that'll get them in the region 2:16, 2:17 on the clock at the finish. But the pace seems to be picking up, and it seems to be a little bit erratic at the moment, the way they seem to be running, putting in some surges, and that can change the overall pattern on the time clock at the finish.
Second place woman is Bernie Stankert from Galway, and running alongside her is Anthony O'Neill, an Englishman. Plenty of advice and encouragement to offer. Let's go and join Jerry Kelly at the bridge.
Running down along on just Leeson Street and running beside the chapel. What's your name, sir?
Oh, Cappy.
Paul, how are you doing?
Right.
How's you halfway in at this stage? How are you feeling?
Right.
You make it through to the end?
Not too bad.
What about the storm that's going to brew up in a few minutes?
I'm ready for it.
Good man yourself. Keep on, keep going.
St. Michael's House, benefiting from Paul Caffrey's run, and he's doing great.
And Johnny Bulger is obviously making a determined effort to break up the Cleamishes, because he feels that if they get together and they could dominate the race and take it away from him. I did notice, though, that Peter Cleamish looked a little bit distressed. He certainly doesn't look as comfortable as Paul. They're actually using the English names now. The last time they came, they were Petr and Pavel, and it caused all sorts of problems for us, but I think I've discovered how we know who's who. One is thinner than the other.
Johnny Bulger, of course, is exposed at the moment. He's on his own now because Tommy Hughes has fallen back just a little bit off the pace. So it's one Irishman and two Czechs. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see if he can split the twins at this point.
But who gets the Czech to the end?
Richard Mulligan looks as if his effort to catch them at the top of St. Lawrence's Road has actually caught him now at this stage, and he's gone well adrift. And Kevin McCluskey's just gone off the back of that group too. As we're looking back down the Howth Road, Dublin looking absolutely splendid, even though the sun has gone in behind the clouds for a few minutes. As they're coming up towards the church in Raheny, and what's known as Dick Hooper country, and no doubt Dick will have organised a lot of the locals to give the athletes a big Raheny welcome as they pass through the village.
Johnny Bulger, of course, he had a somewhat unusual preparation and build-up to this race, because for the last number of weeks he's been shuttling back and over between Dublin and Shannon and Moscow. In fact, Johnny, he was an accountant. He helped set up the Air Rienzi duty-free shop in Moscow airport, and he spends a lot of his time in Russia, between Russia and his position down in Air Rienzi in Shannon. He's an accountant down there.
I wonder if the Cleamishes start to talk Russian, will Johnny understand what they're talking about?
Well, that's down on the ground in Raheny. And Station Road, Raheny, is the 19-mile mark. They're making their left at the church of Raheny. So why don't we go to Raheny and join Ger Canning?
The first prize in the north side, we give it to Raheny for the support they've given and the way they have warmed to this Dublin City Marathon. Magnificent crowds out. You mentioned Dick Cooper just a moment or two ago. I saw him about 2 miles back down the road supporting the athletes. He's out there. Lots of other famous and well-known faces along the way as well. And some girls now just on my left-hand side preferring milk. I think it's milk in any case to these athletes. But as you see, they've got, well, more things on their minds, except perhaps the man at the front there, who's using it just to cool himself down. But there is a terrific atmosphere.
Yes, Raheny always comes out in force for events like this. They're now on Station Road. They've crossed the railway line, and it's up to Brookwood Avenue, Raheny now. And that flatbed truck, the little white vehicle top of picture, just disappeared as where we'll find Ger Canning right now. Give him a wave if you're on the side of the road.
It was interesting there, Johnny Bulger, he obviously is in very good, feeling very good, because he actually had time to wave and smile and say hi to somebody at the side there just shortly after he took his drink.
Yes, he has looked very composed throughout, actually, and he seems actually to be in control there. The twins seem to be in just a little bit of distress, and I can see they're exchanging glances at the moment. They're just wondering just how strong is Bulger.
That's Pavel, the previous winner, on the left, and Peter was on the right.
It's a tremendous gap between the leaders and the back markers at this stage as we look down on Raheny.
15:50 just going through there. That gentleman is a man I know. He fits tires up in Stillorgan, and he's running for charity here. And that's Darren Craddock. He's back at Leeson Street Bridge.
I dare say he's probably looking for a remole himself at this stage.
Let's join Jerry Kelly down there.
Hello, how you doing? How you feeling?
Well, really hard, very tough. Feel very bad at the moment. But I just hope if I could get to the 15-mile mark, hopefully I could make it then.
Well, you're getting there. You're up there just over around 12 now at this stage.
That's good. If I get to the 15-mile mark, I think I'm doing well.
Where are you from?
From Cameroon, okay?
From Cameroon.
That's right.
Good
I'm
man.
sure I'll be playing football and not running the marathon.
Okay, well, best luck.
But I'm doing this for the third world hospitals, for the medical students relief. to the State World Hospitals.
Good man.
That's Patrick Meleji from the Cameroon, and if he could get himself to the finish, I'm sure he'd experience a cheer like Roger Milla experienced when he was scoring those World Cup goals. Back at the front. Not much change here, is there?
The only change is that Johnny Bulger, he's at a distinct disadvantage now because he's taking on two runners instead of one. But he's still determined to force the pace, and I think this is the only way that he's going to break free, if at all. Because if he lets the Czechs dictate the pace, well, he doesn't have a chance at all. But he's going to crank it out there now and give it his best effort probably over the next 2 miles, with the hope that at least one of the Klimish twins will weaken.
That's the position in the women's section after 13.1 miles, which is halfway, of course. Christine Kennedy still leads Bernie Stankert and Heather Heisman. That's the way it's been. And it's obviously pretty steady running from the women. Christine Kennedy, the women's leader at St. Lawrence's Road, Clontarf.
And she still has the same group, Ollie Gallagher and Brendan O'Shea, although I think Brendan looks slightly more pushed at this stage than Christine.
How you doing, fellas? You look like you're cruising along here at this stage. Are you leading this little group here?
Oh, yes, yeah.
What's your name?
Pat Carr.
Where are you from, Pat?
County Line, Curly, Riverstown. Like to say hello to all the Carr family in Riverstown.
I'm sure they're looking in at this stage.
Oh, they are indeed, yes.
I'm wishing you all the best of luck.
Yeah, there's 2 brothers of mine as well.
Good stuff.
Jerry nearly got caught up in the marathon there, didn't he? Now, this is Christine Kennedy, who is leading the women's event, and still looking quite composed and comfortable. At the front, the previous mile was completed in 6 minutes. That's 6 minutes slower, of course, than it had been, but the countryside up there beyond Killester and Raheny, up into towards Coolin, is a bit up and down. Bulger from the 2 Klimish brothers, Pavel in front, Peter behind, and it's now very definitely a 1-2-3. What odds that's the 1-2-3 is going to be composed of those 3, if not quite in that order necessarily?
Yes, I would think we're definitely not going to see Tommy Hughes rejoin this group, but I think Johnny Bulger is going to have to really work hard over the next couple of miles if he's to break this pair of Czechoslovakian runners, the Klimish twins. It's a difficult position because he's running from the front. I'm sure he's running into a fairly strong breeze at the moment as well, and he knows that he's been tracked all the way, not by one runner but by two, and I think he certainly has his work cut out, but I have a lot of faith in Johnny Bulger. He knows the job that's in hand, and he's not going to give up very easily at this point.
That's back. Christine Kennedy just passing the shops there at Killester, and she's turning up a little bit of a climb up towards St. Bridget's Church and St. Paul's School in Raheny, and still Ollie Gallagher is sitting there beside her. She looks fairly good at this stage, but doesn't look as if she's talking to anybody. She's concentrating now. This is where it gets difficult. You've got to get 20 miles and then you can start.
Well, that's probably the 12:40 to London on its way. Our aircraft, though, has a destination which is Stephen's Green in, what, half an hour or so from now? That's Johnny Bulger. And then the two Klimish twins, previous winner Pavel on the left, Peter on the right. Tommy Hughes is struggling, I think.
Well, I wouldn't actually discount Tommy Hughes because he's as strong as an ox, and I think that if any of them drop, Tommy Hughes will be there to pick up the pieces. He's been holding that position about 20, 30 yards behind all the time. Now, he might look as if he's... Oh, there's somebody in real bad order. The old legs have absolutely collapsed and stiffened up on everything. And try and get him going, because, I mean, I don't know where exactly we are. Maybe we're at Killester or somewhere like that.
Well, it doesn't appear to be too serious because the St. John ambulance are actually having a smile with him.
He's certainly not a stretcher case at this stage anyway.
Johnny Bulger, the advantage he has now is that he's running downhill, so he should try and freewheel down as we're coming down towards the roundabout in Artane. It's downhill, as you can see. There's not very much downhill yet. As we get further down the Malahide Road, it'll be down.
Those are the three in front in the middle of the picture, and Michael's just going to pick out the fourth man, Tommy Hughes, for us, and there he is. So it's not that big of a gap when you think of it, really. I'll never be forgiven in Mahara if Tommy comes up and wins it, will I?
I think you'll have to leave the country.
I think really at this point that one of the leading trio would have to weaken considerably before Tommy would be able to take advantage.
Ben McKenna, Sergeant Ben McKenna on the bike, leading the way. Of course, he's involved on the motorbike with the Nissan International Cycling Classic. Man, he used to do a bit of cycle racing himself, but now shepherding home the leading contenders, keeping a watchful eye on our men in the flatbed truck.
Johnny's not taking any water on board at that sponge station, whereas the Klemishes did, and he's trying at every opportunity to gain that extra yard, half yard, that could be so vital when they arrive back into the centre of the city.
They're between Artane and Donecarney now. And still, it's Johnny Bulger.
Bulger was just, even if he was to get 10 metres at this point, psychologically it could make the big difference to him, because he would know then that the twins were beginning to show the little bit of tiredness in the legs. They may have shot their bolt a little bit in that 20-day event in England, and if Bulger can just wind it up now, he could prove to get a few yards to his advantage.
Tommy Hughes. Tommy Hughes is in fourth place. We've just been having a look at him. He's 30 years of age, comes from Mahara in County Derry, but does his running now with Duncairn Olympic in Belfast.
I think I was telling lies. I don't think Tommy Hughes is actually going to make it up to them. Looking at his face there, he looks very, very tired. Look at him. He really looks as if this is an effort to keep going. But he may get renewed hope and strength and energy when he starts to come down the Malahide Road. But at the moment, as they've just passed there, the turn in towards Artane Castle, passing St. David's School shortly, he really looks very, very tired, and it's going to be very, very tough to get to the finish for him. They're just past 20 miles.
There's going to be one thing that Tommy is going to be leading home a strong Duncairn team, and that will be a very strong motivating factor for him.
That's Christine Kennedy, still in front in the ladies' event, as she said she was coming to win it, and she's really got a good lead at this stage. She's a little further back, of course. She's still in Raheny, but she's leading the ladies.
No doubt Christine will get a great buzz when she comes to Raheny, because she's a great marathon runner. She loves the thrill of actually coming and competing in a race like this, and she's so excited. I was talking to her the other night, and she thought this was great. She was here in June for the women's mini marathon, and she got a great buzz out of it. So she'll be really putting it down the boot to try and make sure that she stays in front. And as she goes through Raheny, I've no doubt that she'll get a tremendous cheer, and that'll egg her on and encourage her all the way to the finish.
Back with the leaders on the Malahide Road, heading down towards Marino. Tommy Hughes in fourth place, a little bit behind them. There you can see him, left to picture. It's Tommy Hughes, and that gap, 40, 50 metres. At 20 miles, that's how they were. Pavel Klimesh was in front of John Bulger and his twin brother Peter, but there's very little between them, as you've been seeing. Tommy Hughes fourth, Kevin McCluskey, the fell runner from the north of England, in fifth, and Richard Mulligan doing well in his home country. It's shaped up into a great race, hasn't it?
Oh, it's a tremendous race. And I think looking at them from there, Johnny Bulger looks as if he's really running very easily, whereas the Cleamishes look as if there's a little bit more pressure. They look as if they're really pushing a little bit more. What would you think, Frank?
I would think so, but Johnny has taken on one very big task here to try and break the twins. He seems to, from time to time, maybe get just a couple of yards, but they still pull that back a little bit. If he can keep surging and surging, he may yet be able to get that 10 or 15 metres that would make all the difference. Because if he sees a little bit of daylight between himself and Peter and Pavel Klimes, he will get the confidence to push on and get that vital 10 or 15 metres that could well mean victory for him.
Meanwhile, they're still coming through Leeson Street Bridge. These people have more than half a marathon still to run, and without them it wouldn't be half the event it is. Yes, hello there. 17:25, waving the arms. 17:25 at Leeson Street Bridge was Cathal Mooney from Wexford.
Well, now tell me, who's doing the running here? You're doing the running, you're doing the support, are you? What's your name?
Michelle Cummings.
Michelle, you're doing very well.
Thank you very much.
You're looking very relaxed.
Well, I'm pretty happy. My mum's given me a great help on the back there behind me.
Oh, this is your mum, huh?
Yes.
She taught you?
Yeah, she taught me.
Okay. All right, well, keep giving her good support.
Yes, I
all right.
thank you and same stuff, Jerry Kelly.
That's right. Yes. Bye-bye.
No time for talking there.
Come on, come on.
Well-known site, that one.
The casino in Marino, as they say. There, just near the grounds of St. Vincent's GAA Club. But I'm sure the lads won't have time to go in and visit the casino, as they're coming down there, just passing Clontarf Golf Club, coming down towards Griffith Avenue, another of these beautiful roads on the north side of the city. Slight bias from myself. Clontarf Golf Club just in there. If we know, boys won't go in to play any golf though. But Tommy Hughes is still holding that distance.
To the ground. Well, I'm quite happy to be here today and hope everyone is enjoying the run. And please God, I'll finish around 4.5 hours.
Please God you will. Good man yourself, Turtle.
Well, it's well seen there where Jerry is that there's been a drop of rain at Leeson Street Bridge, which will be good news for Dan Deneen. Dan, the farmer from County Waterford, who runs in Wellington boots. Now, it's the first time this golfer is featured on television. Oh dear, oh dear. No place on the Dunhill Cup for him.
I think he'd have to go back to the drawing board.
Ah, well, he thought he was taking a quiet morning out. At least he can prove to his wife that he was on the golf course.
But is he on the 19th, I wonder?
Right, let's get serious again. Johnny Bulger and the two Klimesh twins. And the pace is quickened here because if you know the Malahide Road, they're going downhill.
I wonder, is one of the Klimishes? I think that is Paul Klimish, and he's gone up maybe to test Johnny, so Johnny has got to make sure that he keeps the initiative. He's got to stay in front there. Don't let them come up and look you straight in the face and say, right, I got you, boy. You've got to keep the initiative. So Johnny will be hoping for support from the side.
Well, here's the man who's going to win the wheelchair event and win it for the 7th time. Jerry O'Rourke, Dubliner, who you could say owns the wheelchair section of the Dublin Marathon. He's on the north side of Stephen's Green. He's just past the top of Dawson Street, and there is no one near him to threaten his position as the winner of the wheelchair section. He's been on the road for a little over 2 hours and 5 minutes, and he just has 2 sides of the green to go. Jerry O'Rourke in the lead. Top of Kildare Street, Shelbourne Hotel on his left, and very shortly now he'll make the right turn into St. Stephen's Green West. East, I beg your pardon. He has this side of the green to go, and then another corner to turn, and the finishing line is halfway down the south side of the green, just outside the Department of Foreign Affairs. You really have to admire Jerry O'Rourke. He has done so many marathons, and still he has the competitive urge to keep coming back for more. 6 victories in the Dublin Marathon before going into this one, and here's another victory about to be achieved.
And that's a great time for Jerry, of 2 hours and 8 minutes, and I wonder, has the fact that the last year or so he's been concentrating more on the track, on his speed, helped him to get to a time of 2:08?
The final corner of the 26 miles at 385, and the finishing straight now for Jerry O'Rourke. And the crowd is there in numbers to cheer him back.
Come on, Jerry, he's been the winner here a couple of occasions before. He's a great competitor.
Jerry O'Rourke about to win the wheelchair section of the Dublin Marathon and win it for the 7th time. That's 1:57 time misleading, because it's the time for the runners who set off at 11 o'clock. Jerry set off about 10 minutes before them, so he has come in at 2:08. Now, what's happening here? This is the lead, and it's still Johnny Bulger and the two Klimesh twins, and let's have a look behind them to Tommy Hughes. Ger Canning is still there in front of the runners, and no doubt he'll have a tale to tell about the efforts Tommy Hughes has been making to pull in the 3 in front of him. The 3 being Johnny Bulger, and on the left Pavel Klimesh, and on the right Peter Klimesh. The 3 have been leading throughout, but the situation behind them is that Tommy Hughes is refusing to give up, and he may well be closing that gap marginally, ever so slightly. Coming down to Fairview Strand, and Ger Canning is there with them.
Yes, indeed, George. It's noticeable that Tommy Hughes, the 4th runner there, has made considerable ground. He's caught up quite considerably, I think, in the last few strides since we passed by Marino there, where there was a big band out to greet the athletes. And I think the pressure may be just getting to the men up at the front who've led for so long. And it's curious the way one of our commentary team, I think, mentioned Johnny Bulger almost in the first mile or two, and there he is. He's had a fabulous run. Johnny Bulger and the Klimesh twins.
Tommy Hughes didn't need any sustenance at that feeding station. They're on Fairview Strand now. I wonder if they won't really be aware that he's closing on them.
Well, they might know if there was somebody that some of the athletes would, the people on the side might tell the athletes that so-and-so is 20 yards or 30 yards to Tommy Hughes, and you would hear the crowds shouting at you, and you can see the gap there, and it's closing gradually. As I said earlier on, Tommy Hughes, I know it's a terrible thing to say, he's as strong as an ox, but I mean it in the running sense that he's really a strong athlete, and he's never beaten. I mean, the actual finish of a marathon is always, as we've found so often, 5 yards beyond the finish line.
And it'll be a tremendous feat, actually, if Tommy does succeed in joining the leaders, because it's always much easier for the group of 3 runners to set the pace and to share the bit of a lead between them. But the person who's detached has all the work to do, all the ground to make up, and certainly it'll be a tribute to Tommy Hughes' persistence if he catches up with this group.
Bernie Stankard from Galway, the second lady, behind Christine Kennedy. It's going to be a great Galway 1-2 in the women's event.
It'll be a tremendous feat for the girls from Galway. And they're also involved in the team title. But part of their team is Seamus O'Donnell, so it's a mixed team, which is not quite the way under IAAF rules, but they won't be too disappointed if they take the £1,000 for the first team.
That's the way they look, having gone under Annesley Bridge. They're on their way, once again, back into the centre of Dublin. Leeson Street Bridge, they're getting slower and slower. 1791, Bernie Traynor from England. Why not have a drink while you're on your way? 6:28 just gone through. Barton Macaulay, farmer from County Meath. Well, the old cleansing department will be out after this, won't they? The discarded bits and pieces of a marathon. The street a lot less busy than it was earlier on.
What's your name?
My name is Maura Lennon.
And Maury, well, you're about halfway through at this stage. How do you feel?
Fine. If the weather can stay fine.
The sun is going to come out now.
I hope so.
And the wind is going to be in your back.
Well, that's good.
That's
We
going to
need
take
it
you
up around the coast.
I'll take you all the way to the finish.
Are you coming all the way to the finish?
I wish I could, but I'm a little bit tired at the moment. Enjoy yourself.
Those the 3 leaders. And Roy Dooney is still battling on.
It's a very tired-looking Roy Dooney, and I wonder, is he right to finish? I know the problem is if you drop out of a marathon, the next time you go, you've got to make sure you finish, but he really looks very, very tired. And I wonder, will he pay the penalty over the cross-country season? Because I know Roy likes to run the cross-country, and he normally gets on the international cross-country team, but I feel this might be just 1-2 marathons too many for him.
And our 3 leaders, it's still Bulger. Here's Michael Lester.
Well, come through the finish line just a moment ago to a great cheer from the Dublin public. Jerry O'Rourke, winner of the wheelchair marathon for the 7th time. Jerry, congratulations to you on your best time yet.
Thanks very much, Michael. Yes, my fastest time on the Dublin course, about 12 minutes faster than I've ever done before, so I'm very pleased. I trained very hard after Holland for it, and felt good and knew there was something there, and it was great today. Very good.
You certainly had gone into this one hoping for your best time ever, and it worked out that way. How about the course? Did that suit you?
The course is very good. Looking up, the rain stayed off. The wind was very strong at certain times, and the first half was very good. I was doing about 59 minutes for the first half marathon, which was great, but the wind on the way back, being on your own for the whole 26 is very hard, and no rest, so it was very tough on the way back, every bit of it.
Well, Jerry, you just got in before the rain. Hopefully the other leading contenders will also make it before the rain. Congratulations to you once again. Let's go back to our commentary.
And so say all of us. Well done, Jerry O'Rourke, and he's the first winner in the 11th Dublin Marathon. Here we go now as Johnny Bulger stretches it out. There could be quite a dramatic development about to happen. Bulger is leading the Clemesh twins now. He's gone for it, and he's got 2 miles to go. Johnny Bulger, is this the moment that Johnny Bulger has made the break that could see him home in front? Stay with us and find out.
When the sun starts getting low in the sky, it's time for CDL Coal Light. Red hot, smokeless, and 20% more efficient than ordinary coal. CDL Coal Light. We're about as close as you can get to the real thing.
Nobody could ever resist McVitie's Hobnobs. Did you know that Andy Warhol preferred the Odie Originals? Or that Cleopatra used to bathe in milk? Or that the Wright brothers would always buy planes? They stay crunchy because of their aerofoil wrapping. Amazingly enough, Beethoven liked opening bars. McVitie's Hobnobs, baked with oats, crunch, and a grain of truth.
In a big world, there's nothing better than a little pot of petit filou, the delicious fromage frais with a super creamy texture and lots of natural goodness. Kids just can't get enough. Petit filou, everyone's little favorite, from Yoplait.
When you want a drink in the sun, there's only one. New Sunkist Orange Crush with real orange juice. Go on, drink it in.
So back we are with Johnny Bulger from Clare, and he's now, stretched it out to 100 metres in Gardiner Street. But not far to go now. If you know you're downtown Dublin, you'll know he's just got to cross the river, head up Grafton Street, and he's into the green, and he could be home and in front. What a great performance. The two Clemesh twins, expected to be among the leading contenders, certainly were, but they now appear to have gone.
Yes, it looks like that, George, at the moment, and we just have 2 hours, 6 minutes and 47 seconds on the clock. Now, Bulger's best time is 2:17:28, and it'll be very interesting to see if he can beat that time here today. But he certainly paid for taking it by the scruff of the neck early on, going up there and taking on the twins, and it looks like he has made that all-decisive break now that's going to see him home safely.
Well, we just have to look down on him for a moment, because with that railway bridge there, it restricts the transmission from the cameras on the ground up to the midpoint helicopters, which means that we have to look down. But now that we got under those bridges, that's out of the way, and we're with Johnny Bulger, and he is on the south bank.
And he definitely looks like the winner. I think he made the decisive break at the absolute correct moment, coming down the lower end of the North Circular Road, down the hill. And as I was saying earlier on, that's where he should have, on the Malahide Road, down the hill, make the break. Because the Clemishes would, I feel, be paying for their long race over the 20 days in the middle of September. And I think that was the time to make the break, when they might be feeling it. And he really looks like he's going to take the Dublin Marathon for 1990.
Where are the brothers? They're not even on the bridge yet. This is just about to Etterbuck Bridge, and they're a long way back. Look at that. He's in Tara Street now. He has already crossed the first junction in Tara Street, Poolbeg Street, and he's heading towards Trinity College. Meanwhile, the leading woman, Christine Kennedy, is just at that turning to Artane Castle on the Malahide Road, but she is as in control of her section of the event as is Johnny Bulger in his.
She certainly looks it all right. But as Johnny Bulger, he coming down here to smile on his face. He can afford to smile now. And there's no sign of the chasing group. They haven't actually even turned the corner, so that gap is about 100 metres at this stage.
Now that's Tommy Hughes just in among the buildings there, and a corner to turn, and he is pulling in the twins. We could well have an Irish 1-2 here. It was expected that the twins would challenge for the first position, but now they're going to have to battle hard to hold on to second and third. Though, to be fair, they do have each other. Tommy's on his own. That is indicative of the distance back to second and third. Johnny Bulger can even afford to smile. The Clemesh twins second and third.
Yes, we can see the twins now from the helicopter shot, and Tommy Hughes has possibly lost a little bit of ground on them at this point. They're going to have an advantage that they're still running together, but there's no way they're going to catch Johnny Bulger at this point. In fact, just about 2 weeks ago, Johnny Bulger ran a 10-mile race in Limerick, and his time was so fast that he went out afterwards and measured the course himself to see if he was really running to a true time. Now, he found the course was absolutely accurate. He ran about 46.5 minutes there, and that certainly helped his confidence going into Dublin. But at 34, it's a wonderful one. Certainly the very best achievement Johnny Bulger has had in a lengthy running career to date.
He's looking good, Johnny Bulger.
But even at 34 years of age, looking back down from the helicopter, it looks as if Tommy Hughes might be actually closing on the Cleamishes. But Frank was saying that Johnny Bulger at 34 years of age. But you've got to remember that distance runners actually attain their peak when they're in their 30s. Remember, in 1984, Carlos Lopez was 38 when he took the Olympic marathon. But I wonder, is Johnny, are his legs tiring now at this stage? Are the Cleamishes going to close up a bit?
Westland Row he's in now. That's the old Westland Row railway bridge. And then he'll make his right turn at the top of that. And I can tell you from our perch in Stephen's Green that the crowds are anticipating the arrival of the winners, and they're beginning to line the footpaths in some numbers. And indeed there on that corner as he makes the turn just by the back of Trinity College and come up into Nassau Street. Second and third, the Cleamish brothers. And where is Tommy Hughes? Well, maybe he's spent himself.
I think he might be closing slightly.
So where is he now? Leinster Street, in fact, which becomes Nassau Street. And on into Grafton Street.
And certainly he will be looking at this now as the end of maybe looking at it like it is at the end of a 10k race that he would have run many, many times. And he'd be weary in the legs, all right. He'd be thinking of nothing else but getting across that finish line. Of course, once he made the break, he has exposed himself, and he'd be hoping that in no way can the twins bear down on him in the last half mile.
This lady, Christine Kennedy, still on the north side of the city, but now leaving behind her mentors, the men who were with her and protecting her and shielding her. She's now on her own, running on her own, not surrounded anymore, but she's well in front, very much on her own in the women's event. Nassau Street, downtown Dublin. Johnny Bulger from Clare is about to reach the bottom of Grafton Street. The Cleamish brothers are leaving each other, and Tommy Hughes hanging on grimly there in fourth place. So it's still Ireland from Czechoslovakia from Ireland. But what a great marathon this has turned out to be. Bottom of Dawson Street, onto Grafton Street. He'll make the turn and up that slight incline. I'd say when you're leading a marathon, though, you'll hardly notice the hill at this stage.
I think you could nearly go off as blindfold at this stage when you know that Sanctuary and the finish is not that far. And Tommy Hughes has gone into third place.
Well, that's remarkable. That's a great gutsy performance by the man from Bahara. Tommy Hughes in Nassau Street is in third place as our leader. Johnny Bulger moves into Grafton Street. Grafton Street's a wonderland, and there's magic in the air this lunchtime for Johnny Bulger.
And I would think he's going to be fairly close to his personal best here today as well. He's not going to be anywhere near the 2:13 bonus prize time, but certainly he should be somewhere in the region of around maybe 2:17, 2:18.
You'd almost think it was downhill, wouldn't you? In the meantime, Christine Kennedy holds on to first place in the women's event. And how? This is the race that's going on behind Johnny Bulger. Up Grafton Street, the Christmas decorations already in place. And the sun shines down at a bank holiday Monday lunchtime. Johnny Bulger.
And once again, the sun has come out for the Dublin Marathon as Johnny Bulger heads into the top of the north of St. Stephen's Green. And the time on the clock there, 2 hours 14 minutes. So he hasn't got that much longer. He's got less than half a mile to go. And that must be sweet music to his ears to turn into the green and realise that half a mile and you've got 80, 100 metres on your pursuers.
He's in the green. And they are in Grafton Street.
And of course, the battle for second and third prize is significant because second prize is £3,500, third prize is £2,500. So there's £1,000 difference.
Now what's going on behind? Well, the break has been made. Clemesh holding Hughes, and then another Clemesh.
I think Tommy Hughes could actually maybe make it to second position. He seems to have got renewed strength there. He certainly looked as if he was coming up Grafton Street very well.
Well, the foreshortening effect of the camera lens, it's the top of Dawson Street for the chasing group, while this line is the top of Kildare Street for Johnny Bolger.
Johnny is going to be very weary at the moment, but he's going to be also very, very happy. And it's only now just a matter of keeping his concentration, keeping his form and his perfect running style. And he knows that in just less than a couple of minutes he'll be across that line safely, and he'll have brought victory to Dublin from a Dublin athlete for the 11th CDL Colite Dublin Marathon.
And the Clemesh battle. Tommy Hughes is in third.
And that looks like Pavel Clemesh was in second.
But no doubt about our winner. He's halfway up the east side of St. Stephen's Green. One more corner to turn. He knows he's won it now. Faced, if such a face he has, down in Shannon now, but very much a dub. Johnny Bolger gets the acclamation of his hometown crowd. A smile as broad as Dublin Bay as he enters the south side of Stephen's Green to become the winner of the Dublin Marathon, the 11th Dublin Marathon. John Griffin won it last year and the year before, but it's come back to Dublin, come back home. The 1990 Marathon is won by Johnny Bolger.
That's a personal best. And Pavel Clemesh is in second, but it's a right royal battle between himself and Tommy Hughes.
What a battle that is. Sprinting for the line after 26 miles. Pavel Clemesh from Tommy Hughes, and how brave a battle Tommy Hughes had, but he's not in any bother now, because Pavel Clemesh takes second, Tommy Hughes will take third, and a great performance by the man from Mahara, and Roy Dooney is now in Stephen's Green.
And it's a very tired-looking Roy Dooney in Stephen's Green.
This is Peter Clemesh coming home in fourth place. Roy Dooney is at present in fifth. He's turning into the east side of Stephen's Green as Peter Clemesh finishes the event. Roy Dooney is going to get fifth.
And it's, as Catherine said, a personal best for Johnny Bolger, a personal best by just 9 seconds of the time that he previously ran in 1983. He ran 2:17:28 to set a personal best. It's taken him that length to improve on his best marathon, but he has done it in style here today.
Roy Dooney is all on his own, but he will get fifth.
It's interesting to watch. Roy Dooney is right in at the side of the footpath. If you watch Johnny Bolger all during the race, he was always out in the middle of the road. That's a man who was in control of himself, whereas Roy is really tired, and it's really a battle to continue right to make it to the line. I think this may be just one marathon too many for Roy this year.
Into the home straight for Roy Dooney, and there's no one in sight at all. Roy Dooney will complete this marathon in fifth place.
Dooney has only ever pulled out of one marathon. There's only one marathon in his career that he didn't finish, and it's a tribute to his resilience that he has come across the line here. Even when he was dropped by the pack, he still kept going, and even though this is a long way below his best, he's going to be happy that he finished.
Now, we have another battle to decide, another title to be won, and that's that of the women's victor, and she is in Fairview Strand. Terry Mitchell, Scotsman, he's sixth. Roy Dooney has finished, as you saw. Terry Mitchell is about to come in sixth place. Scotsman, Fife, 31 years of age. Still a spring in his step, but 6th place. Training grant of £500 for him. And Terry Mitchell completes the course. 6th place.
The winner of our 1990 Dublin Marathon, Johnny Bolger. We've given him just a second to get his breath back. Johnny, congratulations to you, a famous victory. You must be absolutely delighted.
Yes, I am. I really am. It's great to win it in Dublin.
Johnny, you came here to win this marathon. You had been in very, very good form coming into it, but the finish was absolutely exciting and very tactically well planned by you.
Well, I was trying to get away from them. The last 6 miles are very, very windy, and they make me do all the work. And I just kept on at it, and I heard someone shouting along the way to give it another go, so I gave it another go.
Well, you certainly did do that. Now, what about the conditions out there? When you started off first, it was dry, a little bit windy, but we were worried about the weather coming up. Were you watching that?
Yeah, about 20 miles, it looked as if it was going to pour raining, and got very cold. So the last 6 miles were very, very tough.
Johnny, time-wise, it was right up on your best time, but does that matter? I presume just winning mattered today.
Yeah, the only important thing today was the win. Like, it was my best time, but that's really irrelevant because there were very, very tough conditions today.
You pulled away over the last sections of this thing from your competitors. Now, were you comfortable you were going to do that? Were you worried they had something left?
Well, they were testing me every now and then. Like, every now and then, I kind of called them the Cray twins. They're talking in Czech to each other, and each of them were kind of just, they'd shout a command and someone would spurt. And I was countering all their attacks, so I felt fairly strong. But a big thing, the amazing thing was, outside every pub, people are shouting, "Come on, Johnny, come on, Johnny." They're watching RTE.
Well, that's good to know in itself. Johnny, the win was fabulous. The £5,000 cheque for the winner will be a nice help as well.
Certainly will. Makes it all worthwhile.
Johnny, we're going to let you go and get a drink into you. Thank you very much for talking to us. Congratulations again.
And here's the lady who's going to join him on the winner's rostrum, Christine Kennedy, leading in the women's event, making her way through the final stages of the north of the city of Dublin. Ballybock Road, Summerhill, down to Gardiner Street. Christine Kennedy is going to win.
Christine's beginning to look a bit tired now. She's got one more little mountain to climb, the hill there in Ballybock. Once she's over that, then it's plain sailing the rest of the way home.
Absolutely, and this is going to really crown a brilliant running year for Christine Kennedy. She won the women's mini marathon here in Dublin in June. She won the national BLE marathon title in Clonmel, and this is really her crowning glory, to come home and win Dublin. This has been her burning ambition for the last 5 years.
Moment of glory for John Todd, who's running alongside her, or now behind her. And that's Christine Kennedy from the air. Has been in control of the women's marathon from the very start.
A little over 2 miles for Christine, just 2 hours 24 minutes, so she may get under the 2 hours 40, which would be some good running for today, but I don't think she's going to get below the 2:35.
No, I can't see her getting the bonus prize under 2:35, but she'd do well to run in the region of sub 2:40. Her best time is 2:36.54, but I don't think she'll quite make that today. But it's been a great race for her. She's been able to go out there and dictate the pace for the whole of the marathon. She's never been seriously challenged, and it's going to be a great day for Galway too if Bernie Stankard still holds on to her second position, because they're club mates and they go back a long time in their running career together, and Galway City Harriers will certainly have reason to celebrate today.
It's also interesting that what looks the winner of the men's race is well in his 30s, Johnny's 34. And there's a previous winner just crossing the line now, Neil Cusick, in 2 hours 24:30. He's up there for a long time, but I'm afraid maybe the years just caught him.
Remember the team category.
Christine Kennedy, significant and totally fitting that she should be all on her own, because she is all on her own in the women's event.
She came into Dublin at the weekend and went way out to Greystones to stay with her coach, Brendan O'Shea. She just didn't want to be in around the marathon activities. She just wanted to focus on the event. And her heart was really set on winning this event for a couple of years. Few things went wrong in past years, that she was either unable to run or she had a particularly bad run in the event, but it's all come together for her today, and she's going to be absolutely thrilled to bits.
As I was saying, looks like the winners are both well in their 30s, so it proves that really age is no real barrier if you're in your early 30s to winning major marathons.
In fact, Christine tells the story that when she started running about 8 or 9 years ago in Galway, she used to wait until after dark to go out running, because she used to think people would think it was odd of her to be going out running distance. But she certainly proved herself as a top-class home-based athlete and a top-class international runner as well over the last 8 to 10 years.
Well, she was reflecting at the end of the European Championships in Split when she reckoned she hadn't done herself any kind of justice at all in the marathon in that event. It was run on the first day of the championships in Split. She the whole of the next week, while everybody else was competing, think about how she'd got on. She was really disappointed with herself. And I remember talking to her then in the square in Split at the party that they had for all the athletes at the end of the championship, and she said, I really want to run Dublin, but I can't go unless somebody sponsors me. Well, the organisation sponsors came up with the cheque to bring her here, the plane ticket, and she has repaid them. She said, I'm only going to Dublin to win, and when she's going to.
And there's going to be a particular thrill for about 6 other people in the race today, because Christine is running for the CDL Colite team. Now, the other members of that team are runners of varying abilities. Some of them will be running in 4 hours, some of them will be running in 3.5 hours. But she's leading home that team, and it's going to be a very special occasion for about 5 or 6 other runners who would never hope to be on a team of this significance before.
It's a couple of miles to go, and nobody has been challenging her at all.
In third place today was Tommy Hughes from Maharan, County Derry. Tommy, congratulations on third place. Is that something that makes you happy or disappointed you didn't win?
I'm very happy with my run. I hoped for this type of run, and I got it. I'm really happy.
Now, you were having a right old battle out there with the Cleamish twins.
Yeah, well, I fell back off the pace at about, I'd say about 18 mile, and I was struggling, and I kept plugging away and hoping that I was running strong, but I hadn't that extra bit to keep up with the pace. And then coming near the finish, I was still running strong when the Cleamish twins were starting to weaken, and I got in between them, and I hadn't that bit extra again for the sprint finish till getting into second place.
And what about Johnny himself, Johnny Bulger, the winner? Was there ever any chance you could have stayed with him? Was it tactical, or was he just too good?
He was a very strong runner. He kept it very high pace the whole way, and I couldn't keep with it on the day.
Tommy, third place in the Dublin Marathon is a fine performance. Congratulations to you again.
Thanks very much.
And worth £2,500 to Tommy Hughes, Duncairn Olympic from Maharan in County Derry. And there's a cheque of £5,000 awaiting this lady, and there's a spring in her step as she proceeds along Gardner Street and is almost across the river.
And in fact, just as we spoke about the CDL Colite team, she's actually passing a chap called Gerard Daly, who's a member of that team. He's from Cork, and he's going to get a very special thrill here because Christine is the leader of that team.
Still they're finishing in Stephen's Green. Johnny Bulger won it, Pavel Cleamish was second, Tommy Hughes was third, Peter Cleamish was fourth, Roy Dooney fifth, Terry Mitchell sixth, Richard Mulligan seventh. Marty Dean came in eighth, and Neil Cusick, the 1981 winner, he finished in 11th place.
In fact, George, it looks like Limerick may well be the team winners here today, because they had Neil Cusick, Johnny Bulger, and I saw Jerry Milan go in there a little while ago.
That's the Custom House.
When Christine Kennedy ran in the European Championships, she went out very conservatively, but I don't think she did that today. She seemed to go out fairly hard, and I think she slowed down slightly over the latter part of the race, but she's still running strongly at this stage, and I don't think there's any danger but that she's going to be the victor in the women's event today. She's she's not talking to anybody. When she won the national marathon, she was in such good condition, she actually invited some of us to join her for the last mile, but we all declined.
Well, in the form she's in, I think you'd have been trouble even on the last mile. Again, the sun shines in the centre of Dublin. It's not the warmest of days, but then it's nearly November. We've done really well from a weather point of view. So there's just that loop south of the river, then into Nassau Street, up Grafton Street, and into the green for Christine Kennedy. She's in Tara Street at the moment.
I think the athletes may have been appreciative of the fact that it wasn't too hot today. The sun is nice and warm now, as they find it hard after 20 miles. You start to get cold, but if it's too hot, you can perspire an awful lot early on, and then you can run into problems if you run into dehydration. Whereas if it's a bit cooler, you have no such problems about dehydration, and I'd say they're appreciative of the fact that it's not too hot today, that there's a bit of a chilly wind, but the sun is out now, so that'll warm the hearts as they come for the last few miles.
Well, there's a wheelchair competitor, as it were, not an official competitor, but certainly completing the marathon, being pushed along by one of those with a race number.
The great thing, of course, about Christine Kennedy is she has total self-belief. She had no other option coming to Dublin. She had nothing else on her mind but to win. She wouldn't entertain any other thought. In this morning, she was very much in the positive frame of mind, and that is the way she approaches all her events.
I think it's a pity that Christine wasn't here some 2 weeks ago for the Women's World 15K, when she would certainly have helped our team to a higher placing, but unfortunately she just wasn't considered for selection. I think it possibly rankles slightly with Christine, and she would love to have been here in Dublin, because that was also a tremendous race.
Yes, she really wanted to be on that team, but unfortunately wasn't selected. But she's certainly giving the selectors for future marathon teams and other events plenty of food for thought here today.
Catherine was making the point that she's over 30. She's one of the athletes who declined to insert a date of birth on the entry form. We'll believe you.
Well, actually, Christine is 35 and as such is eligible for a women's veterans competition. But when you're running as well as Christine, why enter for the veteran stakes? You can do it in the ordinary races.
Christine's big ambition, of course, will be to make the World Championships in the marathon next year in Tokyo. But her ultimate ambition is really to make Barcelona in the marathon, and that's in 1992.
Bernard Meany in the foreground there. Paddy Clare, he's finding himself sucked into prominence by the prominence in the women's event of Christine Kennedy, who is just overtaking him now.
Even though Christine is obviously facing a breeze, you can see the T-shirt of the athlete there. She's still running very strongly.
Just over a mile to go in Westland Row. Will then be Percy Place, South Leinster Street.
In fact, she should get under 240 today, so she's extremely well running on her own like this too, if she dips under the 240 mark. Christine, of course, dabbled in a number of sports early in her career, and in fact she played Gaelic football for a Galway women's team.
Alongside her now is George Walsh from Cork, one of the vets.
I think the fact that Christine has been living abroad for the last few years has certainly helped her. She's certainly much more determined. I remember talking to Neil Cusick a long time ago, and he said when he was living abroad in America that he was mean, he was always running for Ireland. And I think Christine seems to have adopted that attitude. She's a real determined athlete, and go out and give it all.
Yes, her heart is really in Ireland, even though she's been living in England and Paris. But anytime she comes back here, she's always talking of getting home to Galway. Her mother lives down there, and she has a sister Phyllis here in Dublin who has 9 children and also runs in the marathon as well. And but Christine is very much tuned into all things that happen in Galway on the running scene, and she will have a special reason to be delighted today, because it looks like her teammate Bernie Stankard is going to follow her in second position.
been running for 2 hours and 35 minutes now. That's her time. The best winning time by a woman was Maura O'Boyle's winning time in 1988, 2 hours 37 minutes and 6 seconds.
The time that when Moira O'Boyle ran the 2 hours 37 minutes, she had company all the way, whereas Christine has been on her own for the last few miles, even though she has actually got somebody with her at the moment. But Moira had it all the way, so it makes it much easier for the girls. They have an advantage, I should say, an advantage when they're running with fellas, because fellas will always keep you on pace and help you along and encourage you, and they mightn't be going flat out, so they've got time to talk to you.
We have our uses.
And of course, she has also kept perfect running form. There's no sign of her faltering or cramping or anything like that. She maintains a beautiful poised style as she strides out there on her way to the finish, and she's kept up this very, very nice rhythm throughout the race, keeping her focus at all times on getting to the finish and keeping composed all the way along.
Christine Kennedy turning shortly into Grafton Street, just past the bottom of Dawson Street. There'll be a great reception for her in St. Stephen's Green when she gets there. It's behind George Walsh, who leads her into Grafton Street. And again, plenty of support from behind the barriers. This the leader, the women's leader in the Dublin Marathon. And surely nothing can stop her now. Christine Kennedy from Galway, now living in Paris, came to win, and she's about to win.
Christine, she's a mother of two daughters, Fiona and Michelle, and they with her husband James is no doubt back in Paris at the moment. But she manages to train twice a day and look after her children, and still turn out these excellent performances. Her two children, she was telling me before the race, they're not into running but into gymnastics, and in fact one of them is a very talented gymnast.
Well, they've certainly got a very talented, athletic mother. So cheers for Christine Kennedy, who's just about to get to the top of Grafton Street. And she'll enter the green very shortly now. And applause all the way for the soon-to-be winner of the Dublin Women's Marathon. Along the north side of the green. And there is no race for Christine Kennedy, nor has there been throughout this. She's been unchallenged, her dominance total. Bernie Stankard of Galway has been in second place, but she's some way behind. We'll await confirmation if she's still in second place. But what a remarkable 1-2 it would be for Galway if Bernie Stankard were to follow this lady in second place in the women's section.
And if the time is correct there, I think Christine will be slightly disappointed that she won't have actually got under the 2 hours 40 minutes. But still, it's a tremendous run today.
And to repeat the point that she's had to do it on her own, by and large. The competitive edge of running against another woman has not been there.
And don't forget that the athletes...
been there, but even if it took her 3 hours today, I don't think